Hello, I'm alive. Microphone check. Microphone check. Live. Microphone check. All right, sounds good. Oh my God, I haven't flown in the sim in a couple weeks. Maybe I did one flight, but yeah, I've been out of commission, but I'm feeling good enough to do this. So sweet, I got my coffee and ready to do some ILS stuff today. And I just I have the NXi installed again, so this is the latest 050 version. Could do some non-NXi stuff too. I know I've been doing a lot of NXi. So I'm kind of obsessed with the development of it and just super excited about it. Every time they add something to the NXi, I'm pretty much in the manual, the actual NXi manual, like learning about it because there's so many features in it that haven't been in Microsoft Flight Simulator and the regular G1000. So even little tiny things like when you turn on the traffic, what the traffic settings are, why does it say unres in the bottom right corner, all those little tiny things that happen that we've never seen before. I'm just always trying to learn about them and like look them up in the manual, figure out what every little thing means, because it's just every feature they add, the working title team's adding it based on, like a real NXi. So things that change that don't seem intuitive at first or confusing, like when they made the autopilot change, I was like, whoa, I can't use nav mode anymore. What's going on? It's like, oh yeah, that's actually how the real NXi behaves. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff in there where you're like, oh, that's why it's doing that. And it's, they're making it as true to life as possible. So it's pretty awesome. Now I've been focusing on the NXi, but I'm totally down to do other non-NXi stuff. Like if we want to do a Garmin 530, 430 ILS approach. I think one time I used the Piper Warrior, the Warrior 2, that's from Just Flight, and we did an ILS approach with that. And that has no, I think we did it without the Garmin stuff turned on at all. We had the G1000 turned on, which is like the super old school GPS. But we didn't even use it. Hey Norm, what's going on? Good afternoon. It's 12:41 here in Los Angeles. It's feeling early for me right now. I've been sleeping a lot. Hey Alpha 7 C12, what's up? How you guys doing? Autopilot change was prominently called out in the change log. I don't know if that's sarcasm. Was it actually? I reviewed the release notes briefly, but I don't recall if it was that way. Wait, what's going on here? Hold on, I'm getting a message from YouTube. It says you need to change the video resolution. Does it look okay to you guys? It's giving me a warning. Let me make sure this is right. It says 1440 is not supported for this configuration. Oh, I know what it is. I put it on ultra low latency mode. I think I have to, can I change this right now? I have to stop. I think the stream will stay on, but it'll go blank for a minute. Let me stop and restart something. Sorry, 1 second. Hopefully it doesn't die completely. Okay, yeah, I think the issue is, oh, I see what's going on. If it looks okay to you guys, I'll just leave it alone. But the issue, YouTube is yelling at me because I turned it to this new ultra low latency mode. So the lag time between when I see your chat and when you hear me reply is as low as possible. But I guess they don't support 1440, which I run in 1440 for the stream. So it's yelling at me. But if it looks okay to you guys, then, and the quality is okay, then I think we can leave it alone for now and I'll fix it next stream. You're getting 720 by 60. That's crap. It's 2042 in Ireland. Oh, I was like the year 2042. It does look okay. I usually do it in 1440, like at a high resolution. If you guys would rather me do that, I just have to end and restart the stream. You haven't been able to play since the update. Wait, why haven't you been able to play? Did you have issues? I know a bunch of people still have issues. 1080 still looks good. Okay, if you guys are cool with it, I'll leave it. What's nice is the ultra low latency. So like the delay between when I see chat and you hear me is a lot shorter, and I thought that'd be good to try out. Usually it's like a 10-second delay or like a 30-second delay, but now I think it's just a couple of seconds. You have it at 1440. All right. Maybe next time I'll go back to how it was. I like doing 1440, a little more resolution, but anyway, that's all good. Yeah, I know a bunch of people have still been having problems since the Sim Update 5, which is a bummer. And World Update 6 was the first time I had to do like a workaround to get the update working. I was getting that bug that some of you guys may have gotten, which is I had to start the Xbox app first, and then the Microsoft Store update showed up. So that was a little bit weird. Anyway, I was hoping to focus on ILS approaches today. I haven't done, but I'm meaning to do an ILS video with the NXi, just like I did with the RNAV video I made for the NXi. And now that the ILS is working really well in the NXi, it does all the work for you. It auto-tunes the frequency of the localizer. It automatically switches over to the, changes your navigation source on the CDI over to localizer when you get to on the way to the final approach fix. So that's awesome. So it's at a point where I think it's a good time to make a tutorial for it. So probably be doing that next. You had a couple crash to desktop when you did the update. Decided to redo your desk. Try today to fix the sim. They did add the new safe mode where if it crashes, the next time you start it, it'll ask you to go to safe mode, which I think what that does is automatically turn off all of your plugins, all of your add-ons. So there'll be no add-ons from the marketplace, no add-ons from the community folder. So it basically does the work that, you know, they always tell you to do, which is clear out your community folder, turn off all your add-ons, all that kind of stuff. All right, let me find a first flight to do here. I was going to try the Cirrus SR22. I haven't flown the 22 in a while. And I watched the NXi, the working title team Discord a lot, and a lot of people in there are using the SR22 as well, which is cool. It has a G1000, so it's compatible with the NXi. G1000 NXi shows highways, roads, and land symbols. No, not yet. The G3000 does, though. If you use the G3000 mod, which is the only plane that uses it in Microsoft Flight Sim, is the TBM, the Daer TBM 930, this guy. This guy is also worth using since the last Sim update because of this awesome, like, blacked out livery they added. This thing looks so cool. It's kind of like if you watch Stevo Knievo on YouTube. He's a TBM pilot. He's flown the TBM 940, and the 940 he flew is like this midnight blacked out livery. It just looks awesome in his videos too. So you're basically flying Stevo's 940, but you're flying a 930 instead. The 940 has auto throttle, which is really cool, and an auto landing system. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, in the G3000 mod, which is by working title, it's the same team that makes the G1000 NXi mod. You can download an optional road data package. So you'll get city names, highways drawn in, all sorts of stuff like that, which is really cool. Yeah, the SR22 is rad. I was flying the SR22 a while. I think I stopped flying it so much because I was doing a lot of like grass strips and shorter runway stuff. So I like the 172 and the 208, the Grand Caravan for that stuff. Those are really versatile, just kind of easier to fly. The SR22 is just like a little faster. So yeah, your takeoff roll and your landing roll is a little longer. Too bad the Alpha. Oh yeah, the keyboard, right? Yeah, it has a keyboard underneath it, but thankfully if you're on PC, the NXi mod has the option to, use the keyboard to enter waypoints. But like I was just chatting on Discord with someone about the flight plans, and with the NXi, how it is right now is basically that anything you do in the NXi inside the sim itself, the rest of the sim basically doesn't know about the flight plan changes you've made. So that's why ATC doesn't work. Like it won't react to your flight plan changes. It won't let you request a new destination. It won't let you request IFR clearance through the in-game ATC, all that kind of stuff. And the VFR map won't update. All that kind of stuff. You can kind of think of the NXi and the sim brain itself, as far as the flight plan goes, as disconnected right now. The only way they connect is if you use the world map. So that's why in my videos and in the stream, I'll pretty much always use the world map right now for the flight planning. And the reason is just for ATC. So as long as you do your flight planning in the world map here, because this is not part of the NXi, this flight planning, then when you load in, it'll know this flight plan that you configure here. So that's why I always do this. You can still use an automatic approach. So if I go just choose a random departure and arrival, oops, 2 departures. And you choose IFR up here. So, and the 22 will be below 18,000. So we choose low altitude. So this flight plan, for example, or any flight plan that you import down here, if you use more and then load save down here, you can load in a flight plan from, SimBrief or something like that. And when you load those in, it'll just load in the flight plan like this as well. So as long as you do this, then in-game, the ATC and the VFR map will work. But if you make changes using the NXi, those will not get synced. It'll still think this is your flight plan. So that's just a limitation right now. And then at the top here, for the approach, you can keep it on automatic. If you want to play like, if you want to keep it more realistic, you could choose automatic here. And in this case, air traffic control will assign you an approach. That'll work still. And then you can go to the NXi and then you can update it to what approach you've been assigned with the procedures menu. Or as always, you can force a specific approach. So anytime you want to 100% for sure fly a specific approach, you just choose that here and it won't change once you're in. I generally like to just leave it on IFR and then you just use the recommended route and then leave the approach on automatic if I want it to like have to react to it on the fly, or if I want to tune into the ATIS of the destination airport and listen to what runways are active and what approaches are active. Or, ATC will also tell you, hey, expect this approach, expect the ILS, whatever, expect ILS 03 right, expect ILS 27 left. They'll tell you the approach, then you just react to it using the procedures menu on the NXi. Or, whatever you're using. You don't have to use the NXi. You can use the stock one as well. But in this case today, I was going to focus on the ILSs just to show off some of the new features. I know I showed it in the update video I did for 050. That has the ILSs working. There were some bugs with it before that, but they fixed a bunch of bugs. It auto-tunes the localizer frequency and all that. So yeah, as usual, I'm going to find a route with Skypark. I almost called it Skypad. This is the Skypad, but the app is called Skypark. And what's nice is up here under filters, you can choose to require an ILS. So I can force an ILS so I know I'll have one. And I assume an ILS and most of the time have a runway lighting. Probably don't need that. And you can choose the type of plane you're flying. So I'll choose piston since we're in the SR22. I don't think it's the GTS. I don't think it's the SR22 Turbo in Microsoft Flight Sim. I think it's the GTS model, which I believe is a non-turbo. I mean, that's for turbo prop anyway, not necessarily like a turbocharged piston, as far as I know. So anyway, this will be fine. And then I can also go to advanced filters here and choose like a shorter distance. We don't really want to fly more than 100 miles because you guys will get bored out of your minds. And then the blue and the gold, you guys have seen me do this 1,000 times, but the blue routes are auto-generated. The gold routes are basically manually like curated routes by the Skypark team. So that's one thing that sets Skypark apart from some of the other ones. One of its pluses is that they set up a series of like curated or like editorialized. If I clear this really quickly, we can see more. They're like editorialized or like curated missions. So here there's like this huge tour of the UK. So the UK tour part 2. So this is like, think of it as like almost a bush trip. But yeah, you explore different areas based on that. Instead of like the computer generated ones, which are the blue ones. Here's another one that's to, oh yeah, rum tasting part 2. So I remember they did the first one. So yeah, these are just many, many legs you can fly. All right, so let's do ILS again. Do 100 miles and just, that'll narrow it down quite a lot, but this is fine. And then I'm wondering if we can find some, it's always fun to find some crazy weather. So here, if you go down at the bottom to open filters, actually first you have to go to the more menu here in the bottom and then open filters. You can change from satellite and clouds. You can change clouds to precipitation. And then in this case, I'm just gonna turn off my destination stuff so we can see. So here you can see the precipitation map instead of just cloud coverage. So if we definitely want to fly in some thunderstorms or some rain, something like that, and we can fly near these bubbles of precipitation. There's not too much outside of the Gulf of Mexico because the next hurricane's coming in. Forget what is this next one called? I just got an alert saying it was about to hit land in Texas. And then in the Northwest, there's always a bunch of weather up here. And I guess we can go to the Midwest. We can go over here. So I'm just going to see if there's a route over here. Maybe we need a slightly longer distance. Yeah, nothing's really going through this little bubble right here is where all the weather is. So maybe this is kind of the closest we can get. It's kind of boring just over, I don't know, over the Great Lakes. Let's do this one. 47 Oscar Hotel. Okay, that's in there. And KGSH. Goshen. And then you can just, I'm just going to choose the flight sim recommended flight plan here. Hour and 8 minutes. Is that too long? That's fine. We'll catch up during the flight. Turn live traffic off, all players on, and then live weather. And it looks like we got some nice cloud coverage going here. And I'm going to start on the runway just to save time. It's not very good manners to start right on the runway, but you know, I'll save us 10-15 minutes. And the load time, I'm still so impressed with the load times. So let's see, mods I have installed. I have the fall trees turned on. That's why the trees look so awesome right now. That's the 4 Seasons mod. I think that's probably the best mod to get in the game. Best paid mod, in my opinion, is the 4 Seasons trees. The trees just look a million times better with this mod. All right, I didn't check the runway length or anything like that. I'm not taking it 1000% seriously today. As I normally don't in the streams. I'm usually doing it more casually. And then we can open ATC and see what our IFR clearance is. So right here, climb and maintain 10,000. And I have my new Honeycomb Bravo came in. I had one a while back. And it had some problems with the switches, so they replaced it for me. So I didn't have it for a few weeks, so it's nice to have it back. The autopilot controls are really nice. They take a little getting used to because it's just like 2 knobs to set all the numbers, like the altitude and stuff like that, but... and what's nice, if you guys don't have the SR22, it's part of the premium package, but one really nice thing about it is how compact it is here in the panel. Like the 2 G1000 screens are so close together. So if I hit Control 2 on my keyboard, that's instrument view 2. So this gives you you know, you can see both screens clearly, which is really nice. The downside though is that the autopilot is down here. So this is like the GFC 500, or maybe it's the 700 Garmin autopilot down here. So that's one of the bummers. You have the heading knob up here, but you can see the integrated buttons that are normally on the left side are not installed in this version because you have an external autopilot down here. Hey Merlin, what's up? Yeah, it's good to be back on. I know I've been MIA, but personal news is I caught COVID when I went to that wedding a few weeks back. I got the Moderna vaccine, both shots, back in April and May. And for the first time I left on a plane since January 2020. That was the last time I was on a plane before the pandemic. And I personally am like I'm a rule follower. So I was, you know, quarantining, I've been isolating since I got positive test. But anyway, me and my partner went to a wedding. I posted a photo from the cockpit. I got to see the cockpit of the Embraer where we were in. And, yeah, and we went to the wedding. I got back 2 days later. I started coughing. I had chills, but no fever. And yeah, I went and got tested and was positive for COVID. So that was super fun. But yeah, I've been pretty weak the last couple weeks, but nothing major. It just feels like kind of a really bad cold or like a flu. But yeah, I'm thankful I got the vaccine. Just because I have a family member who had it really bad because he didn't get the vaccine. So I'm personally thankful that it didn't affect me very much. So yeah, I've just been offline for a couple weeks because of that. But yeah, it's good to be back. And I got tested again 2 days ago. I got the results yesterday and I'm negative now. So that's good. And surprisingly, my partner, she didn't get it at all. So it's interesting how it works. When we got the vaccine, I hardly had any reaction to the vaccine, but she had a fever for a day. And then when, you know, we were in the same area the whole time. We were like, you know, attached at the hip for the wedding we were at for 2 days, you know, 2 nights. And yeah, we were in every place together, did all the same things, all the same people. And she didn't get it. She was negative and I got it and I was positive. Same vaccines and everything. So anyway, yeah, that's why I've been gone for a couple weeks, but I'm feeling pretty good now. And I got my hand ready on the mute button in case I have to cough, but it's been pretty good. So hopefully I won't do any of that on the stream. All right, anyway, we're still sitting on the runway like good aviators, just taking up a runway. So departure's set there. And then let's check the flight plan again. All right, so we're just going to the west here. We got a few waypoints and then, oh, I didn't choose the ILS, but I can still, I didn't choose the ILS on purpose, but I can still recommend it, or I can still request it through ATC when they assign us one. So as long as you do it through ATC, like they know where we're going, it'll still work. So it looks like we're going through a couple airways. Cool, Rabbit, Twerp, Grabby, and Rabbit, or Garen and Rabbit. And then to our destination. So I don't have the approach loaded in just yet. And then I've actually been turning off the topography on this in map options. I've been turning this just to off and turning NextRad on and turning traffic on is how I've been doing it. And yeah, I know some of you guys have said you're having problems with traffic. I've been having problems with traffic too. So I think that might be a known issue. I did have it in 040. Traffic was working fine. Or was it in 050? It might have been that 051 hotfix I did that messed with the traffic, but I haven't been seeing traffic either. And then over here, you can you have all those options over here on this map as well. So whether you use the inset or the HSI map, you can go to these options down here and you can turn on NextRad. You can do relative terrain. I like relative terrain on this one. I mentioned in one of the videos, it's almost like a poor man's radio altimeter where you'll get your AGL reading because of the relative terrain. So the basically it'll have 3 colors, green, yellow, and red. Red represents the terrain around you being 500 feet AGL or lower. So when we take off, it'll all be red. When we see it turn from red to yellow, at that moment, that's us passing above 500 AGL, which is really cool. So that's helpful for things like, you know, you don't want to enable autopilot until you're like 400 AGL, I think is the rule, and things like that. And, you know, in general, say you're doing a traffic pattern or something, you'll have another indicator of when you're getting higher up. So if you're waiting for that 700 AGL to start your first turn or something for a traffic pattern, for like 1,000-foot kind of standard traffic pattern, that's another cool just visual reminder that you're passing 500 AGL to kind of get ready for that. So it's pretty cool. You know, this plane and I think most of them in the sim do not have a radio altimeter that tells you your AGL number. I think the TBM is one of the only ones that has it. The Caravan used to have it, but it doesn't anymore. So anyway, this with the NXi basically gives you a radio altimeter with that relative terrain mode in every plane. So it's super cool. So when we take off, you'll see it turn red as soon as we get airborne. And then when it turns yellow, that's how we know we're above 500 feet. And then the yellow to green is above 1,000 feet based on the elevation of the terrain around us. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, traffic doesn't work for you either. Yeah, Falcon. Yeah, I think it's just been an issue with since the hotfix maybe. It was really cool to see it, but I'm sure they'll fix it and we'll get it back in the next version. But yeah. All right, let's take off really quickly. This has been a lot of talking. And what's the rotating this? 70? Rotate 70, and our VY is 101 for our best rate of climb. So I set 10,000 on selected altitude. So let's go down here and hit IAS, which is indicated airspeed. So it's basically the same as flight level change. So up here, I'm turning our flight level change up to 101 to match that VY. You see traffic? I don't see traffic here. Oh, some of these waypoints came in when I have my zoom levels at certain settings. So you can see when I get below 75, it brings in some of the smaller or mid-sized airports. And then when I get even lower, oh God. So this is, I mentioned this in the other video, all these filters that are there now. So this is insane to look at, obviously. I don't really care about all these intersections and these small airports at this zoom level. If I'm zooming in really far, I care about them, but here it's way too much. So this is a time to go into map settings here with the menu button and then go under aviation right here and hit enter. And now we can change all of these rules. So you can keep them on or off, or you can choose what zoom level and below they show up at. So here I have 25 for small airports. So I'm going to turn that down and now they'll disappear from this zoom level. And then same with intersections here. From 25, I turn this down to 15. There, so that cleans it up a ton. So now if I do still care about those waypoints sometimes, but I just need to know that I need to go below 25. You can see it says 25 nautical miles on the zoom. So if I go down one more, they'll appear again. Maybe this area is just super congested. There's just so many airports. So it's pretty crazy. Worked for you on VATSIM. Oh, the live traffic did? Federico, that's awesome. Yeah, if you guys are using VATSIM, thankfully a lot of these things I'm talking about where, you know, the flight plan doesn't sync with the VFR map here, it will sync with it because I did it through the world map. But that problem and the ATC not knowing where you're going problem, if you do your programming down here, actually doing it by hand, those problems don't exist for you if you're using VATSIM or Pilot Edge or what is it, IVAO or one of those, because you just turn off ATC. You don't really care about that stuff. So yeah, it doesn't affect you. Traffic works for you. You've had issues with VNAV not working. So there was a change for VNAV. Hopefully I can use it during this flight here. Yeah, let me turn on heading mode. I'm going to sync our heading bug straight ahead. Turn on heading mode. So our autopilot's all set up. There was a change with VNAV compared to the first version of the NXi. How it used to work is you could enable VNAV mode, so it would show VPath right here in white, and then you could turn the selected altitude down to give it permission to descend, basically. You have to do that in the opposite order now. So now you cannot turn on VNAV mode until you take the selected altitude here and turn it lower. So if you're flying in altitude select mode or altitude hold mode at 10,000 and you click VNAV, it will just flicker and then turn off immediately. And it's basically a reminder, you need to set your selected altitude down first and then turn VNAV on. So that change, I actually asked the NX or the working title team about it, and they said that mimics how it works on the real NXi. So that is more accurate, more true to life. So that's a change that happened since I recorded that video. So yeah, there'll be changes like that. Like, you know, I can't go back in time and replace the video, unfortunately. Not only is it take a lot of time to do that, just to edit one thing, re-upload a whole video, I'd actually have to delete the old video. So there in the bottom left, see the red? So that red is showing us our, it's showing us our 500 AGL. So we're at 500 or below on that terrain, which is why it's red. So that's going to change to yellow as soon as we pass 500 AGL. That crossover from red to yellow that's coming up right now. So when that gets in the middle on our plane icon there, we'll know right now we crossed into yellow. We're at over 500 AGL now, which is pretty cool. So that's what I mean by it's kind of like a fake, it's kind of like a little poor man's radio altimeter. And now when this changes to green, we'll be at 1,000 AGL right there in the middle. So now we're at 1,000 AGL. So that's why I think that's really useful. I don't usually turn it on over here just because it's so bright. Like, this is so distracting. I usually keep this on off, actually, because things like traffic and waypoints, just, I like the contrast when it's got the black background. So really, I like that personally. Like, keep the colorful stuff over here on the little one so it's not as blinding. That's usually how I've been doing it. All right, let's tune into Cleveland Center. I think that was an untowered airport we took off from, so now we're tuning into Cleveland Center. So ATC will work on this flight just because I did the planning in the world map. But if I make any changes to my route over here, outside of procedures, it'll get confused on what we're doing. All right, continue as planned, 29901 on our altimeter. So I just updated that here. And now we can switch over to nav mode. So I clicked nav mode and it's not working. And the reason for that is another change I pointed out in one of the videos. You can see that GPS is now armed, which means standby. So GPS in white means it's in standby. That's technically called armed. So it's armed but not active. Heading mode is active, which is in green. And the reason why it's not working anymore is because another update they made was to add arming criteria for the autopilot. So navigation mode only works now if you fly close to the course. So we're far off from the course. The rule is actually 1/2 scale lateral deviation. And what that means is this pink line right here is showing how far off course we are. These little white dots here are our scale, our deviation scale. So it's basically how far off course are we? And the rule is that we have to be within a 1/2 scale deviation. So this pink line needs to be within this middle, this first dot right here. So we need to fly that manually. We need to get over there. Or not manually, but at least with heading mode is how I do it. You could fly it manually or you can use heading mode. So what I'm going to do is use heading mode, and I'm using my Bravo to turn the heading bug. So I'm just turning heading mode over this direction so we fly towards the course. Once we get within that 1/2 scale of lateral deviation right here, so when that pink line or magenta line comes inside of this first little dot, you guys can probably barely see that, that little white circle right there. When it comes inside that white circle, that's when we're close enough for navigation mode to automatically arm. So it's on standby up there. It says GPS in white. When that comes in, it'll automatically arm, and then we'll be in navigation mode. All right, contact Cleveland Center, so they're handing us off. I'm going to turn on the AI autopilot to handle all that for us so I can pay attention to chat. So I did that up here in the little assistance menu, turned on ATC comms. Completed the first step down correctly, but you left VNAV on, selected the final FAF altitude, and it overflew the top of descent without descending. No, you shouldn't. That should work. As long as you... The only change they made was that you can't enable VNAV when you're at the selected altitude on the autopilot, so this blue number. So before, you could turn on VNAV mode and then turn this down to give it permission to descend, basically. And you'll see, oh yeah, GPS mode just activated, by the way. So that's, so we got close enough to that lateral deviation. So now it's allowing us to use navigation mode. But it should, the way you're describing it, Cheese, should have worked. So maybe that's a bug. But yeah, what you can do is you can set your selected altitude on the autopilot all the way down to your lowest VNAV altitude, so like your final approach fix altitude, and then enable VNAV mode, and it will step down one at a time for you the whole way down. You shouldn't have to touch it again. So that should work. All right, and we're over 5,000. I haven't set my mixture, so I'm gonna pull my mixture back to maximize our power here. 75%, 76%, 77%, 78. Sorry, I'll catch up on the chat in just a second. There, 78 looks like our maximum power here. For our mixture, let out a little bit more. Making the smallest movements with my mixture. All right, looks like 77 is our max now. So we're passing 8 for up for 10,000. 10,000. Sorry, let me catch up here. I also hit the approach button at the same time. Yeah, approach, you can arm approach early if you want to. I generally wait until I'm on the leg that's going to the final approach fix. So approach mode has a few functions. If you're using an ILS or, sorry, if you're using a VOR as an approach mode actually, it kind of like injects caffeine into the approach mode. So it basically becomes more accurate to use the VOR. That's one lateral thing the approach mode does, but the main use for approach mode on the autopilot is to capture a glide path or a glide slope. So generally you don't need that until you're not going to capture that until you get to the final approach fix, or in the sim it seems like you actually capture it pretty far before the final approach fix. But once you turn that leg to aim at the final approach fix, that's when you want to make sure approach mode is on the autopilot if you want it to capture and follow the glide slope or glide path. So that'll work with both an ILS and an RNAV with vertical guidance. So that's an LPV RNAV approach or an LNAV VNAV RNAV approach. But as far as the sim is concerned, every single RNAV approach right now is treated like an LPV approach type, which is not realistic, but that means that you'll get vertical guidance, and a lot of the time it'll be off quite a bit. You'll get vertical guidance for every RNAV approach, even if it doesn't have vertical guidance in reality. The working title guys said that that's basically a sim thing. The sim itself doesn't know the different types of RNAV approaches. It just treats one RNAV as everything else. They're all the same. So in the video I made on RNAV, I did mention, like, you know, there's LNAV, there's LNAV VNAV, there's LP, there's LPV, there's all these variations of RNAV approaches. Each one has a difference in whether it has vertical and or lateral and or vertical guidance. But in the sim right now, that's not actually true. That's true in real life, but right now everything is treated like an LPV approach. So that's a limitation right now in the sim. 12 degrees Celsius, so I'm gonna leave the pitot heat off. It's really warm. So yeah, that's one thing about the RNAVs. So approach mode, yeah, hit approach mode when you're headed towards the final approach fix, because the final approach fix is generally the point that you're gonna get your vertical guidance for a glide slope or a glide path. This is one of the stock liveries, by the way, that came with these pretty flowers. This came with Sim Update 5. And there's not too much weather around here. I didn't pick a very good good area to get into some crazy IMC conditions for our ILS stuff, but yeah, oh, I'm still reading your messages, Cheese. It doesn't happen all the time. It happens randomly. Yeah, it could be bugs. You know, like we're all taking a little bit of a risk by using the NXi just because it's a beta. You know, they're going to be fixing bugs every single release, but I'm so obsessed with it because, I mean, the pace at which they're making changes is incredible. I mean, this thing is almost as good as the built-in G1000. The only things that are really missing are OBS mode isn't working yet, but it's coming. OBS mode will be in the next release. The working title team posted a video in their Discord, server, and they have a channel called Progress, and they post screenshots and videos. So they already posted a video showing OBS mode working. So hopefully we can expect that in the next release. And the other things they posted videos for, they posted screenshots of new visual procedures. So right now when you select an approach, you just get these. So ILS, localizer, RNAV. They showed a couple screenshots. One of them shows visual approaches are added. So a visual approach will basically line you up with the runway. It'll give you a couple of waypoints and line you up for a straight-in approach. And so you can use that at, I think it's pretty much any airport you can use that. So that's super handy. And it's kind of an overlap of what OBS mode does for you. Yeah, Ivan, OBS mode, if you're familiar with VOR navigation at all, when you fly using VORs, you basically decide which course you want to fly to and or from the VOR on. So just think of the VOR as a waypoint. And in our GPS, we have VORs as waypoints. So like all these 3-letter waypoints, like here, Charlie X-Ray Romeo, Alpha Charlie Oscar right here, all of these little blue waypoints are actually VORs, the 3-letter ones. One of the 3 VOR variations, but they're all VORs. All of those are also in our GPS database. So we can use VORs, like actually right now we're headed to one, FBC right here. This is a VOR. Now we're going to that waypoint using GPS. But anyway, traditionally, if you're using VOR navigation, you're using navigation radio. So it's a radio-based navigation system or navigation aid instead of the digital GPS that we use nowadays. Basically what OBS mode lets you do is when you click on OBS, it essentially turns, some people like to describe it as turning any waypoint into a VOR. Now, technically it's not a VOR, right? We're still using GPS. But what it'll do is it'll basically only have one waypoint activated here, which is the one we're headed to. And it'll draw a line all the way through the waypoint. So if you could just visualize a line going from up here in the very right side of the display, all the way straight through the VOR right here. Now this happens to be a VOR, but we could do this for any waypoint. We could do it for twerp over here. Picture a line going all the way through it. And the course we set is this magenta line, right? So say this is the direction we're heading. But what we can do now that OBS mode is on is we can use this little triangular course knob right here. And we can change to any course. So OBS means Omni Bearing Selector, meaning any bearing we can choose. We can choose any bearing or any course that we want to fly. So what we can do, if we turn this OBS knob, or sorry, this course knob, we'll actually see the line rotate around that anchor point, around that point there. So basically we're drawing a course to that waypoint of our choosing. So right now we're on a course of 263 headed to this waypoint. We could change that course to say 180. Then all of a sudden this line will rotate up, so it'll face directly south for a 180 course. It'll let us fly a 180 course to that waypoint instead. Yeah, and so what Falcon is saying is a really big use case for this, outside of kind of using a faux VOR, is lining up with the runway. So in the next update, we'll have 2 things that'll let us line up with runways really easily. One is a visual approach. So if you're flying VFR, I mean, a visual approach, I think technically it's still an IFR approach. I was just reading about it. I need to read more about it before I talk about it, I guess. But basically, it's still an IFR approach, but you have to have a visual of the runway. It's almost like this weird hybrid between VFR and IFR. And I was reading that it kind of makes ATC not as responsible for you once they give you a visual approach. Anyway, the OBS, I can actually demonstrate that if you guys want. I could uninstall the NXi and show you how it works in the next flight, because it does work in the stock G1000. So for the runway heading, say this waypoint here is our destination airport, and we know the runway we're landing at is, say, runway 20. 20 runway means roughly a 200 heading. You just put a 0 on the end of the runway number. That's the rough magnetic heading within 10 degrees. Now, it's not going to be absolutely perfect. If you want it to be perfect, you could look up the actual runway using a real-life source like SkyVector or whatever you use. Look up the runway info. So say we find out that the runway is actually a 205 heading. we could just turn on OBS mode, dial in a course of 205. Did I say 205 or 2? Anyway, 205. We dial in that exact runway course, and we'll basically get a long virtual runway, like an extended runway. So we'll know exactly where the runway is. And we can use Autopilot to fly that runway heading using that dialed in course on the OBS mode. Or we can just have it there for a reference if we're flying traffic patterns or something like that. Basically like a huge extended runway line. And if you use anything like On Air Company, or if you use, I think Navigraph also shows extended runway lines, or if you're like a super nerd like me and you like to use ForeFlight, you could also turn on extended runway lines. It's basically what you're making for yourself on the Garmin is an extended runway line. So yeah, that was kind of a lengthy explanation, but OBS mode in a nutshell lets you choose a course to go to your active waypoint on. You can override the course you're flying to that waypoint or from that waypoint. So yeah, for a runway, if you have an airport set up as your current active waypoint, you can rotate that course around it and just choose what course you want to fly. And a lot of the time people do that with a runway heading. So yeah, you get a big runway heading line on your map here. It's super useful. I mean, if you don't have OBS, like traditionally people do that using their heading bug. So say you're flying traffic patterns at an airport and you're just flying those left-hand turns and doing touch and goes or something. One way to do that is by using the heading bug. So instead of, if you don't have OBS mode, you would just put the heading bug on the runway heading. So whenever you see that, say we're flying our downwind leg, we would have, sorry, I'm gonna cough for a second. There we go. So say we took off at an airport, we're flying a traffic pattern. We take off, we make our two first left-hand turns, and now we're in the downwind. If we had set the traffic bug there to the runway heading when we took off, when we make our next left-hand turn, we make our base turn, then this bug would be over here on our base turn, right? So as this moves around and then we start turning to final, the bug would, you know, rotate around. So you just use it as a reference for the runway heading, using the heading bug. That's a common use when you're doing like traffic patterns or flying VFR. And, you know, the OBS is basically the upgraded version of using the heading bug as a runway reference. Any ETA on the next update? For the NXi, they're pretty much always on Thursdays. So whether it's this Thursday or next Thursday, I don't know. But Thursdays are Marketplace update days for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Schwartz, yeah, sorry, I don't know if I shared the route here, but we're going towards FBC, Fox Bravo Charlie, VOR. We're heading from this small airport here in like the Great Lakes area, 47 Oscar Hotel, and then the destination is, I don't know if you can catch up at this point, but the destination is Golf Sierra Hotel, KGSH, if you want to try to catch up. I mean, usually I'll look behind me and there'll be a couple of you guys here already, so I know that happens sometimes. Sorry, sorry I didn't share it in advance. Yeah, so hopefully we'll get an update on Thursday, and they did post a preview in their Discord. So if you're on the Working Title Discord, look in the progress channel. They post screenshots and videos there. So we'll have, hopefully it's in the next one, but they showed previews of OBS mode working, and they also showed visual approaches listed in the procedure menu. They showed left, center, and right designations on the runways as well. So up until that, like right now, if you have a left, center, right runway or a center runway, it doesn't show the C letter. So it'll show the C letter. And then they're also labeled differently. It looks like they're going to be labeled more accurately. So on the real NXi, when you load the procedures, they don't just say RNAV, they say like RNAV GPS or RNAV WAS or RNAV. I think they'll say like RNAV RNP, but these will get a little more explicit. And then we'll also get the visual approaches for all the runways. Visual approach is going to be so helpful, especially for small airports. It'll basically give you, it'll basically program in a simplified approach. It'll give you two turns basically to line up with the runway as part of your approach, or that will be your approach. So there'll be a visual approach for 27, a visual approach for runway 9er. Those will be listed here in the next update too. They showed previews of that in their in their Discord. So if you want to creep on their Discord and look at all that stuff, you can just go to working title. Actually, let me just get the link for you guys really quickly. You don't have to do the work. I'll do the work for you. So working title site. Yeah, the Discord is down here, linked in the bottom. So I'm just going to copy that and I'll put it in the chat right now if you guys want to join their Discord. There's their Discord server. But yeah, if you go in there and look in the progress chat room, the progress channel, that's where they post their screenshots and videos of all the stuff that's upcoming. Yeah, panning is not working yet. Sorry, I just saw that one too. Yeah, panning isn't working. You know, there's a lot of stuff not working. I mean, they started from scratch basically, but just that we have VNAV, this is the only, outside of I think like, what's VNAV working in? Is it working in the CRJ? I don't think VNAV is in the CRJ yet. I think it's just advisory. Maybe the Airbus, maybe the Airbus mod, the 320neo or whatever, VNAV is working, but pretty much VNAV in large part is not working in anything. So to have VNAV in everything with the G1000 is insane. It's been pretty nice. Oh, 2992 on the altimeter. I guess we can turn our landing lights off. Oh, our strobe is off. What? Sorry, I had some weird Windows alerts. Just asking, can I send you a group invite or give me one? Disappearing issue won't be happening. Yeah, if you want to on the next flight, yeah, I can do that. I've actually never used the group flight stuff before. I just have it on all players. But yeah, I know the last time you guys joined in, you were disappearing and reappearing. I think we all were for each other. It was kind of weird. But I'm on the US West server. The only other bug I've noticed in nodding altitude hold mode in the Cessna due to its low speed. Oh, not turbulence related. So the NXi actually, I think it was as of 2 updates ago, they actually created their entirely own custom autopilot. So the NXi is not only the avionics, like just the displays, but also the autopilot mechanics are all handled by the NXi as well. It's like a full-on autopilot replacement as well, which is kind of crazy. So they not only coded the NXi displays and the approaches and all these things, the maps and, you know, the instruments, but they created an entirely new autopilot, custom made, which is, yeah, it's kind of crazy how much work they've done. Oh, working title CJ4. VNAV does, awesome. Oh, it doesn't work in the TBM, sorry. The TBM with the G1000 mod is only advisory. You cannot enable VNAV mode on the autopilot. But that's cool if it works in the CJ4. I did fly the CJ4 a few times. I was starting to learn it. So I always fly the slower, lighter planes, but CJ4 is really fun. It's just crazy to me going from a piston to a jet. It's really intimidating. When you like don't have an ILS, you have to hand land one of those. It's really scary. It's just so fast. So respect to you guys that fly the jets. Those hand landing those without the aid of like an ILS or something. It's really intimidating. I think it's really difficult. I got a Dunkin' Donuts coffee and I'm very happy right now. All right, so this flight's a little longer, but we're starting our first main turn here. We have a few more waypoints until we get to our destination over here. So if you guys haven't played with any of the new map options down here, oh, the legend isn't turning on. It's weird. Maybe it's because of my map mode. Oh, because I have terrain off, that's why. So there's this new little legend button down here, so it turns on this little key in the corner. So it'll show you color coding. So if you're in topography mode, this will show you the altitudes, or sorry, the elevations of these areas around you. So if we zoom way out here, you can see like the Rockies, for example. So that's what that little legend button does. And it also works in relative terrain mode. So you can see near us, we don't have, this is NXi up there, so that's some precipitation. But if I zoom way out, you can see out here, the Rockies are pretty much the only thing higher than us right now. So that legend down there also shows that. It'll show what the colors mean. So if there's no color, then we're over 2,000 feet above any obstacles. And then between 1 and 2,000 feet is green. The red is either above us or within 500 feet below us. So basically, yeah, watch out. We might run into that, or we might not be a safe altitude above it. We kind of want 1,000 feet minimum of clearance above all obstacles and terrain. And then, yeah, yellow is in between that 500 to 1,000 feet. But earlier when I took off, I showed how you can basically use relative terrain as like a kind of like a radio altimeter. So it'll show your AGL based on color. So you know when you go above 500 feet because it turns to yellow. So it's kind of useful for that. And also when you're descending too, you'll see it turn red. So when it goes from yellow to red, you'll know you're crossing over 500 feet AGL. So if you know you have like say a 200-foot ILS minimum, just another little reminder of your altitude, your AGL altitude. But I like to keep this off on the MFD myself, just because I like the contrast of, you know, when I'm zoomed out like this, I can really see the dots. When I'm in these modes, like, it just, you know, the contrast is lower, so things don't really pop out at my eyes as much. During the flight, you usually switch servers for a minute and then come back. Oh, you can do that? You mean just hit escape and switch servers like this? Oh, I'm on automatic. Maybe it's messed up because I'm on automatic. That's interesting. I haven't tried that before. I'll try that out, Knight. Thanks. Yeah, if you guys join for the next flight, I know a few of you guys like to fly along. Sorry, I'm bad at trying to include people, so sorry about that. I know you guys like to fly along sometimes, and yeah, it's pretty fun. You guys are really good. Some of you guys are really good at formation flight. It's kind of crazy. The autopilot change was great. There was an issue with the default when it switched from flight level change to altitude in the last few hundred feet. Ugh. I don't know if I've seen that, but that sounds horrible. It would cause a Cessna to stall. Oh, right. If you're climbing at VY. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, because it abruptly pitched up, right, to like try to capture the altitude. Yeah, I think I have seen that happen before. Yeah, or if you're at VX or something like that too, instead of VY, you're at an even lower airspeed, so it's even riskier. That's cool that they fixed that. Privyet, Oleg. Thanks for dropping by. It didn't happen all the time with pitch up. It would pitch up, yeah. 172 to stall. Yeah, I've had like runaway autopilot issues in other planes, but not really in the NXi, thankfully. A couple versions ago I had it did do something weird, but I haven't been able to reproduce it. This is the Cirrus SR22. This is the SR22. It's part of the Premium edition. So this isn't a Sobo plane or a Zobo. Is it a Sobo or a Sobo? I don't know. It's French. I don't know how to pronounce it the real way, but yeah, this is the SR22. Your landings are horrible. You bounce off the runway. 128.625. Yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to get better at like I guess it's a lifelong thing. Like you're always trying to get better at landings. Oh, I haven't trimmed the mixture since we got to 10,000. Oh, it's still pretty good. Mixture's like 40% right now. It's pretty low. We're at 10K. Isobo? I'm from Los Angeles, Oleg. I honestly believe that's the reason why they made their own autopilot. Yeah, I'm actually impressed they were able to. I didn't think they actually had the capability to make their own custom autopilot, but they have, which is awesome. You know, they have to coordinate everything they do with the Microsoft team, you know, whenever they run into a limitation, they have to tell Microsoft, like, or Asobo, they have to say, like, this doesn't work. We can't do this in the NXi because of this limitation. So like I know the NextRad is one of those things. Like I noticed a weird bug with the NextRad where it doesn't show weather right around me. You're from Moscow? That's awesome. I've been to Moscow like 3 times. I've been to St. Petersburg. I took a train from St. Petersburg from Moscow to St. Petersburg. It was awesome. Yeah, I've been to Russia a bunch of times. Moscow is really fun. St. Petersburg is beautiful. If anybody is like looking for a cool trip, like, you know, once we're all traveling regularly again, St. Petersburg is insane. It is so, the architecture is so beautiful. I'm not even like a big, like, I'm not a huge like wanderlust, like traveler kind of person. And man, I was blown away by St. Petersburg. It's incredible. Hey Xavier, how's it going? Welcome, thanks for hanging out. You think your flight sim's broken? Searching for updates a little long. I've heard of that happening. I had that happen a couple updates ago, and I honestly just let it sit there on the searching for update screen for like an hour. I just like walked away, and then when I came back, it was ready to update. NextRad doesn't work on Xbox. That's a bummer. NextRad's it's really nice. That's a bummer it doesn't work on Xbox. Yeah, as far as I know, yeah, it is a flight sim bug, not a working title NXi thing. They just basically show what the sim tells them. I really love the SR22. This plane's really fun. They did make some changes to this in the last update. In the Worlds update, I think they made some engine changes to the SR22. So I haven't flown it until now. I don't really notice much different, but I haven't been flying it too much. So any of you guys that fly this regularly, you might notice a difference in the engine performance. All right, so we're hoping to get the ILS approach from ATC. If we don't, then we'll just request it. So we can do an ILS here with the NXi. And the latest NXi does a lot. It does like all of the ILS work for you. It's as easy to fly an ILS as it is to fly an RNAV approach, because it automatically will tune your navigation radios right up here. So as soon as we load the ILS approach down here using the procedure menu, so if I were to go in here and choose ILS 27, it will automatically load the frequency here. You can actually see right here, it says primary frequency 108.3. It'll automatically load the localizer frequency into both of our navigation radios as soon as you load the approach. So that means you don't have to go and look up, you don't have to go to SkyVector or something like that and look it up. So in the past, what I would do is go look at, I mean, you should look it up anyway, right? If you're flying the approach, you should look up the approach chart, the approach plate. But you don't really have to if you don't want to, if you don't want to take it that seriously in the sim. But if I look up KGSH, go to airports, and look up KGSH. So this is Goshen or Goshen in Indiana. So if we scroll down here, there are these images. These are all the approach plates. So it'll have departures, arrivals, and approaches. But in this case, there's just approaches. So here's our ILS for 27. And so we should, if you want to take it more seriously, you'll look up an approach plate like this. Look up a real world approach plate. So this is the ILS approach. So this summarizes the ILS for us, the entire approach procedure. So if you've never seen one of these before, in the middle here, you basically get an overhead map. And at the bottom, this other section with this like gray shaded area, this whole area, this is basically if you're standing on the ground and you're looking at this black line. There's this little black line down here. That's the runway basically. So this is like if you're standing on the ground looking at the plane descending on this path, these black lines. And then right here at the little X, this kind of Maltese cross that's rotated, this little X sign here at 2,500, that's telling us that we get vertical guidance with the ILS once we get to 2,500 feet at this waypoint right here, which is called BALA. You can see the waypoint names are all 5 letters. with the exception of VORs. Those are 3 letters. So here's BALA. So that's the waypoint where we intersect that gray shaded area. That's where we get vertical guidance. That's called the glide slope. And then up here on the map view up here, you see this big kind of shaded area, this big like extended kind of dotted area. It's like half dotted, half clear. This is the localizer. So this is our horizontal guidance. This is how we get lined up with the runway. And the ILS is the combination of the localizer, so it lines us up with the runway, and the glide slope, which gives us a vertical guidance down to the runway once we get close enough. So that's the ILS, the 2 components of the ILS. And then to tune into the ILS, you only need this one frequency. At the very top left here, it says localizer. It shows us the identifier code of the localizer, and then it shows us this number 108.3. That's the localizer VHF frequency of the localizer. 108.3 is the frequency. And it's also shown here in the middle. It says localizer 108.3. So all we have to do to use an ILS is tune into that localizer frequency using our navigation radio. And what I was showing here on the procedure menu on the NXi, you can see it has 108.3 down there because that's the ILS frequency. So that's gonna be entered in for us automatically. So instead of us having to come up here and use this nav knob and dial in 108.3 like this is how we would do it and manually, 108.3, and then we hit the swap button. So that's activating that localizer frequency. That would be the manual way to do it, but the NXi will do it for us. As soon as we go in here to procedures, choose the ILS 27, it's going to do that for us automatically. But that's where we get that frequency from. We get it from over here from the approach plate. And then there's a lot of other information here that's, you can get really detailed with this. I'm still learning things about this plate that I didn't know before, like how it shows, for example, this mini airport chart, this mini runway diagram in the bottom left. It'll show things like this little P means there are PAPI lights to the left side of runway 27. Because it's a black background, it actually means that the lights are controlled through the radio by the pilot. That's more of a real life thing that doesn't happen in the sim. But there's all sorts of little nuanced details in here. You can learn tons of stuff about the approach. And then generally people, after they do an ILS approach, the next thing they usually ask about is the missed approach. And so up here in the top right corner, you see it says missed approach. Climb to 2,500. So that means to climb to 2,500 feet. Go directly to the GSH, or the Golf Sierra Hotel VORTAC, and hold there. I actually haven't used the holds with it. Maybe I should try doing this during the stream as like a practice run. So basically, if you guys are unfamiliar with approaches, every approach has missed approach instructions. And the missed approach instructions for this ILS approach is to do this. So if we look down here at the bottom, this table down here of all these numbers, these are what are called our minima or minimums. These are basically rules for how low we can fly the plane on this approach. And if we don't have a visual of the runway environment by this altitude, then we cannot land. We have to go missed, or we need to fly the missed approach procedure and not land the plane. So if you want to take it really seriously, this is the kind of stuff you would look at. And me, a lot of the time, I don't take it 100% seriously. I have fun, you know, I learn things here and there, but the missed approach, if you want to take it really seriously, the missed approach, you basically need to memorize and set up for the missed approach when you're lined up and kind of coming in on final. You need to configure the plane getting ready for missed approach. So in this case, and these are actually summarized down here too. See this little 2,500 with the arrow? This means this arrow is which way you fly. So it's saying you still fly straight ahead. So at that point, it'll be runway heading. So if we went missed and we said that we were going missed, meaning flying the missed approach procedure, not landing, 2,500 means climb to 2,500 feet straight, just on the same heading. So that'll be runway heading. Some of them will show like a left-hand arrow or a right-hand arrow saying you do a climbing right turn to that altitude. And so all these instructions are based around obstacles, traffic flow. They're defined per approach, per airport. So they're unique for every single one. And then the second box here, this is just describing what is set above. We fly directly to the GSH VORTAC, the VORTAC being a VOR basically. So we would climb to 2,500 feet, and once we're at 2,500 feet, we would fly to GSH. And then it says to hold there. And then if you look at this map view, the dotted lines here, this dashed line, represents the missed approach route. So on the right side, we're flying in, we're on the localizer here on the right. This represents the localizer, these little shaded areas here. So we're all lined up. Localizer and autopilot are making us perfect, totally lined up. When we get to Bala right here, that's this waypoint right here, Bala, we will expect the glide slope. That's what the shaded area means. So we'll get our vertical guidance and it'll start taking us down. For vertical guidance to work with autopilot, you just turn on approach mode and it'll pitch the plane down for you. And then where that arrow ends on this route up here, let me make this a little bit bigger, sorry. Where this arrow ends, where it says localizer to where that's pointing, this little kind of like busy kind of black lines right here, that's actually the airport. It's like a mini airport diagram. Then there's this dashed line after it. The dashed line represents the missed approach procedure. So you can see it, we're flying runway heading, just like it says down here. Fly runway heading, straight ahead, 2,500 feet. So we'll climb to 2,500 feet. And then over here, it's showing where the VOR is. GSH is right here. This is the Goshen VOR. It's off to the west of the field. And here it shows our hold instructions. So these are our headings for our hold. And so what's interesting though about this one, so this hold is standard, which means if you know traffic patterns, standard traffic patterns are all left-hand turns. When you do a hold, standard turns are right-hand turns. So you can see this racetrack. If we're flying this, we're making right-hand turns. You can see we're going around and around. So the instructions are to climb to 2,500 feet straight ahead, go to the Goshen VOR or VORTAC right here, and then we'll enter a hold. And we can actually do that with the NXi now. I think I should do that. I'll probably botch it. I really don't fly the missed approach procedures much myself, but we can try it out so I can show this to you guys. It's as important as the ILS approach, you know. Though most of the time, like you'll use the ILS, you'll get down, you'll land. There'll be clouds down to 0 feet. You'll still land because it's a sim and you're having fun, right? You know, it's as serious as you want it to be. But if you guys want, I think it'd be cool to fly. We can fly the missed approach for this. I'll give it a shot. Whew, I'm out of breath a little bit. It's a lot of talking. I'm a little, I like this stuff, you know. Hopefully I'm not speaking too quickly, and I can't put visuals up for you guys really, but you know, it's really cool stuff. I just think all the procedures in aviation are so cool. It's because I'm like a tech nerd and I think this stuff is awesome. Yeah, no problem, Steve. I enjoy doing it. I'm stoked you guys are here. And I love all the chat. It's really fun when you guys are here chatting. It makes it fun. We can chat about stuff. You guys are teaching me stuff. I'm reviewing stuff and finding things wrong with what I know. Like it's a mutual relationship. So yeah, I appreciate you guys hanging out here.
1 Kilo India, Papa 10,000 feet. Cirrus November 2 1 Kilo India, Papa Cleveland.
Sorry, I was talking for a while, so let me catch up on chat. What feature am I looking forward to most in the NXi mod? Well, OBS mode is going to be in the next version, most likely. They showed a preview of it. I'm stoked for that because I want to show OBS. I want to make a new OBS video. I think OBS mode is awesome. I know I fly the IFR stuff and the IFR flight plans a lot, but the streams when I do the grass runway stuff with Skypark, that's way more fun. It's not as nerdy and technical. You know, you guys probably agree, like flying VFR is just more fun. You're hand flying a lot. You're getting into crazy small runways, like small grass strips are really challenging to land at. That kind of variation is super fun. And I mess up those landings all the time, so it's humbling, you know? But OBS is so good because you can fly those grass strips more easily. You can use OBS to dial in that runway heading and basically get a long extended runway line on, like, you know, a big long line through the runway so you know how to fly. So it's great. OBS mode is super powerful. And they're adding visual approaches in the next one as well. They showed a preview of that in their Discord. So we'll have visual approaches for all of our, for all of the runways, I think. I don't know if there's a runway you can't do a visual approach procedure on, but I'll find out, I guess. The notes on the chart state the Warsaw altimeter settings should be obtained. Oh yeah, there are so many little details on these. Yeah, right up here at the top. When the local altimeter setting is not received. So this is an untowered airport. So we can see all these frequencies listed in these 4 boxes at the top. These are kind of hints as well over if it's towered or not. There's no tower. There's a clearance delivery frequency, but I really doubt it's here. So there's an approach, there's an ASOS, which isn't even an ATIS, so it's just an automated weather, so it won't give us approach or run, or it won't give us runway information on active runway. It'll just give us the weather. Kind of like, it's basically like a digitized METAR is what an ASOS and an AWOS are. We don't get, it's not that like human recorded one. So we'll just get the weather info. And then Unicom, so yeah, there's no tower frequency, there's no ground frequency here. So we're in an untowered airport. And the weather information, it says when local altimeter setting is not received, use Warsaw altimeter setting. So it's basically giving us an alternative for the weather information to make sure our altimeter setting is correct. So in real life, you know, this is real life stuff here. This is with the FAA. So in the sim, most of the time, everything just works. So like you'll always get this ASOS frequency here, or AWOS or ATIS, whatever they list. We can actually check that right now, 12145, and see if we're in range of it. So we can use our COM2. So if I push this knob in right here, it'll move our little indicator down to COM2. And then we can dial in that frequency, 121.45. There we go, and then I can swap it with this. And now if we want to listen to COM2, we have to go down here and turn COM2 on, so we can hear COM2 as well. All right, so we do have it. Wind 261 at 22.
Sky condition clear. Temperature 301C dew point. 10C altimeter 2990.
2990. Okay, so I'll turn COM2 off. We're still tuned in. I just muted it. So 22 knot wind at 220, it said. So if we look back, the runways, there's a runway 27 and a runway 6. So 27 will be best for us. But that's a lot of 22 knot wind. And so the runway is at 27 and the wind is from 22. So we'll have the wind off from our right side a little bit. There is some math we can do for a crosswind component. I don't know that math offhand though. Okay, so 2990, so we do have, that matches what we got on the ASOS there. Thanks for the stream, no problem Steve. Ivan, thanks a lot. Pretty contagious, cheers. Sorry I don't do it more often, yeah. I did get COVID, so the last 2 weeks I've kind of been in op myself, but I'm feeling pretty good now. It got through my Moderna vaccine, but thankfully my symptoms weren't too bad. So yeah, I left the house basically for the first time on a plane for a year and a half and got it right away. It sucks. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good now. It's been like 2.5 weeks and I tested negative a couple days ago, so it's totally out of my system, I guess. Just have some, you know, kind of like after you have a cold, I'm still got a little cough here and there, but I'm feeling pretty good otherwise. I know I'll feel 100% when I'm ready to go to the gym, but I'm not quite there. OBS is really helpful. Yeah, OBS is incredible. Can you do a bush pilot mission? If you guys want, I'm down to do anything. I think I'm gonna finish this one with the ILS approach. We're getting pretty close. And then I'm gonna do the missed approach procedure and do the hold so we can see all of that stuff. So what we can do now, one downside is the missed approach procedures are not loaded in to the NXi yet. I'm sure they'll add that later. There's actually a menu button here. You can actually see, where is it? Here under procedure, see where it says activate missed approach. So the database for the Garmin should have missed approach instructions in it. So those instructions we were looking at over here, where it says climbing, or we can look at the text version up here, climb to 2500, then go direct to the Goshen Vortac, which is over here to the west, and hold. And then it has the hold instructions as well. All of that stuff should be in the NXi database. It's not implemented yet, but that's something that'll be really cool to have. So that'll make it so when you do missed, you can just activate missed approach, and all the waypoints will be set up for you automatically. And but what we're gonna have to do to make the missed approach work right now is manually do a direct to that waypoint. So I'll just use the direct to button here, and I'll dial in GSH, which is that VOR. So here's the VOR that we need to hold at as part of the missed approach procedure. So here again, if you just look at the map, this dashed line right here, we follow that dashed line. So say we're coming down, the clouds are too low, we don't have the runway environment in sight. There's a whole list of what constitutes the runway being in sight, where you're allowed to land. And it really matters on like the lighting system that's available at the runway. So mattering the lighting system, there are certain sets of lights that when you see them, you're allowed to land. Like the threshold light that's green on certain lighting systems is one of them. Being able to see the runway end, the end runway markers at the end of the runway is another. Like there's a whole list I don't have memorized, but there's a whole list of criteria to what means that you have the runway in sight. It's not just like, oh, I can kind of vaguely make it out. There's a set of specific rules. So if you're taking it seriously and you want to follow that stuff, anyway, we'll pretend that we can't see the runway, even though there are no clouds low. We'll have a visual, but we'll fly the approach and we'll use the hold to see what it looks like. So what we'll have to do is, and I'm going to use the autopilot to help out with this, and that's, we're going to set our selected altitude to 2500 as we're coming in on final. So it's pre-set up. We're going to sync the heading bug to straight ahead. So the autopilot will already be set up to do the missed approach procedure. And then once we're flying that in heading mode, I'll keep the autopilot on for that as it's climbing up to 2500. And then what we'll do is go over here and we'll dial in the waypoint we need to go to and hold at, which is GSH. This one's a pretty simple missed approach procedure because we just fly straight and this VOR is straight ahead of us. So yeah, then I'll just activate a direct to waypoint here and then switch to nav mode. So it'll take us directly to this. Then what we can do is we can program in the hold itself. So we could fly the hold manually just using our heading knob or manually flying the headings that it lists. So here, this hold, like I said, it's right-hand turns, and you can see that with the little arrows around it. They're right-hand turns. So you can see we're not, if we come in straight on this, we're set up to make left-hand turns, right? We need to make right-hand turns. So because of this entry that we'll make, we're actually gonna make a left-hand turn and cross over to the far side of the holding pattern and then start the right-hand turns. So our path will, we'll actually see this on the NXi because it'll program in the entry for us. But this is considered, I think this is considered a direct entry because we're coming straight in from the right, from the east here. So we'll fly over the VOR and make a left-hand turn at about 30 degrees or 45 degrees to go to the far side of that racetrack pattern. And then we'll make a left-hand turn and then we'll fly inbound back towards the VOR on that 090 course right there. And then we'll just keep making those right-hand turns timed 1 minute each. So it's 1 minute on 090, then you make a standard rate right-hand turn, and then 270 for 1 minute, and we just repeat that process until we're cleared for our next instructions from air traffic control. So with the sim, those next instructions might not actually work out because we'll see what we can do, what air traffic control options we get, but basically they would give us another approach. They would clear us for another approach, and we would fly based on their instructions to a new initial approach fix, and we would start that approach procedure again to try again. If you go into the window, you can set the range for traffic to show up. By default, it won't show traffic 25 nautical miles zoom. Oh, maybe that could be it. Let me check. I don't know if there's any traffic around. I can check the VFR map. There's not any traffic around us actually, but yeah, that could be an issue. if they made that change and I didn't notice it. So it says all traffic. So the traffic, these two settings right here are actually for, oh, right, 25. Oh, maybe this needs to be way higher. Traffic symbols. The labels is specifically for if it shows the altitude number underneath the little blip, the little traffic icon. Traffic symbols, I thought this was higher. Yeah. Anyway, there doesn't happen to be any traffic out here. I think it's mostly because I have live traffic turned off. I only have multiplayer traffic turned on. So, all right, we should hear at this next waypoint, we'll probably hear from ATC. And we're going to request the ILS procedure. Thanks for the G1000 videos. Very informative. No problem. I've tried setting up a flight plan fully on it. The flight sim will never let me do IFR. Yep. Unfortunately, that's a limitation. So the NXi basically doesn't talk to the simulator. It doesn't sync the flight plan with the sim. So the only way you can do it right now to get ATC working and get the VFR map working is by using the world map. Oh, I'm too fast.
Descend and maintain 2,500 feet.
Sorry, yeah, the SR22 is cruising at 150. Yeah, so Fredito, you cannot do that yet, unfortunately. If you want to do that, you can use the stock G1000, but the NXi doesn't sync with the VFR map or ATC. So any changes you make to your route here, like approaches will work. It'll still do the approach you selected from the world map, but yeah, you can't change your destination, unfortunately. If you're using VATSIM or something, you don't have to worry about it. But if you're using in-game ATC like I do, the only thing you can do right now is use the world map to do your flight plan. If you want to use ATC, you have to do the planning in the world map, unfortunately. Descend and maintain 2,500. So let's go ahead and listen to them. So what's our ground speed is 105. So it's about 500 feet per minute. So ground speed times 5 gives us a rate of descent. So we're gonna go down to 2,500 feet. All right, and I'm using my Bravo. They said expedite already, so I'm gonna do 700 feet per minute just to get down because they're yelling at us. And I was a little late to start that. So we're descending to 2,500. A manual for the NXi. Look up, just Google Garmin NXi manual if you want the real life manual. I look at that pretty often. And the working title team, like they are literally implementing the real NXi behavior on everything they do. So it should match what's in the real Garmin manual. But of course, there's a ton of stuff that doesn't work yet. You know, they built this from scratch and it's almost as good as the stock G1000. So yeah, there are a few things that are, there are a bunch of things that aren't working yet, of course. But, you know, every week or two, there are new things being added, which we could not say for the stock G1000. You know, there were like no improvements to the G1000 in the last year. There was pretty much nothing. I think they added OBS mode and that was it. But we'll have OBS mode in the next version of the NXi. Or at least in a future version. I assume it's going to be the next version. They showed a preview of it, so that's why we know. I've tried setting up a flight plan. Oh, I read that already. Sorry. How fast are you? What type of traffic are you looking to see? Sim Connect, like live traffic or VATSIM? Oh, it doesn't show. Does this show multiplayer traffic yet? I'm not sure. All right, so we're hoping for the ILS approach here. And the airport we're going to is right here. It's the Goshen, Indiana airport, KGSH. And we're going to try to get the ILS. Actually, we're going to request the ILS. We're going to request the ILS from air traffic control. And we've been reviewing this approach plate. So if you've never looked at one of these approach plates, these approach procedure documents, this is one from the FAA because we're flying in the United States. But I went over a bunch of the basics here. There's a ton of information here, but what we're going to do for this approach is we're going to go missed. So that means we're going to fly the missed approach procedure. This is what you do if you aren't established to land and don't have, and or do not, or rather, so if you're not established for the landing and you're not going to make the landing for some reason, or because you don't have a visual of the runway because of weather, then you are supposed to fly this missed approach procedure. So that we're going to do that, and we're going to look at the new hold feature in the NXi. So the missed approach instructions are when we go missed, we need to climb to 2,500 feet, go directly to the Gaussian VOR or VORTAC, which is right over here. This is the runway right over here where it says localizer. It's pointing at the runway. So this dashed line shows where we're flying. We're flying to the west, and then we're going to go to this VOR, and we're going to hold there. And we're going to use the hold feature in the NXi to do that. Why is the G1000 not available through the marketplace? I don't know the reason for that, but the NXi is the first one that the working title team has gotten in the marketplace, and the G3000 existed before the working title team was hired by Microsoft. So working title, they were hired as contractors by Microsoft as far as I know. So they are partners, and they are working to implement the NXi into the default sim. Like if you look at the description of the NXi in the marketplace, it says that the NXi will become the default G1000. So I think the G3000 is just another project that was happening before that. So I assume in the future we'll see the G3000 in there. And they say in black and white in the sim marketplace, the description for the G1000 NXi says that the G1000 NXi will be the future default G1000. So there will be no more stock G1000. There'll only be the NXi built into the sim, not even as an add-on. So it'll just be part of the sim. And then I think we can expect they're going to do that. Clean up the G3000. Yep. Probably true. I mean, this is the first one they're like partnering with Microsoft on. So I imagine they're getting a lot more information, a lot more capabilities with their dev team that they weren't able to do before, which is why they're just blazing fast. Like they're just crushing it, how fast they're developing this thing. It's awesome. All right, let me turn off some of these waypoints down here. There's also this detail down here, this little detail soft key. So if you don't want to go into menu and like go into aviation and turn these settings down for the ranges, you can always use one of these presets at the bottom. See the detail gets lower and lower. So I can turn this down to 1 and just see where I'm heading, which is nice. It'll only show me the things in my flight plan. So it really cleans the map up. The plate, yeah, I pulled it up using SkyVector. There are a few sites. You can go to the FAA website itself. I like using SkyVector because if you just click airports in the top menu, you can just type in a code. I'll just type in JFK, for example, KJFK. And it gives you all this information. Like it's not just the major airports. You can get runway information, frequencies. There's a ton of info here. Just a caveat, do not use this website. Someone mentioned this in the last stream. Do not use SkyVector for flight filing. This is a real life tool. You can actually file a real world flight plan here. Just don't sign up for an account, but you can still reference all the information. But anyway, down here at the very bottom, there's all these images. This is JFK, so it's super busy. There's this is a huge airport, but you can find them here. Another site that's really cool is ChartFox, chartfox.org. I'll put a link to this one too. SkyVector, you don't need an account. ChartFox, you need a VATSIM account. But once you have a VATSIM account and you log in, you can look up charts. This is basically like a Google for charts. It'll work not just in the US, but any charts that are available worldwide. This is a pretty good site too. Oh, Flight Plan? I haven't used that one before. I just recently looked at this one. And ChartFox too, you can actually hit this plus button and you can add a bunch of charts to the top, so I can queue up the taxiway diagram and then click through each of them like this, which is really nice. So. All right, here's our. Oh, we got the ILS. Cleared to Bala. All right, so I chose ILS 27. We chose Bala. Minimums. I'm going to put the minimums in already. We're just going to do it here. And if I go back to the charts, this is ILS 27. And we can see Bala is right here. That's the initial approach fix. Bala is actually like right at the glide slope. So we're going directly to this fix. right at the glide slope mark. So then down here we have our minimums, 1027 right here. That's our MSL minimum for the altimeter, so ILS 27. This is 200 feet AGL, but MSL, our barometric altimeter setting, or our barometric altimeter will read 1027. So we round that up. So we'll turn minimums on. And since we round up, 1027 goes up to 1030. You always want to round up for these. And they cleared us directly to Bala. Oops, 1030. Enter. Now I'll scroll down to activate, and we can see the final approach fix Bala, but we're heading straight to the final approach fix is where they cleared us to. So I just hit activate. Whoa. This is not what I'm expecting though. This is interesting. So we put in Bala, but there's a procedure turn in here. Oh, no, this is going to be correct. This will be correct. Sorry. Let me take a look here. Yes, this is correct. Okay, yes. As always, the NXi is correct. So just make sure we're going here. We're down to 3,300 feet. I'm just adding a little power to keep our speed up because we're about to level off here. Low fuel. Whoops. I haven't been switching my tank. It's very bad. The SR22 has a left-right tank selector. So if you're used to flying a Cessnas, a lot of them have a both. But most other planes have a left-right. So I didn't switch this. I should have been switching this throughout the flight every 30 minutes or so, but I didn't. So therefore we're off balance. But anyway, we're on the fullest tank now, which is what you should be on for the landing anyway. But yeah, I messed up there. So if we go back here, sorry, let me just review this really quickly. So the reason why it's showing a procedure turn is because that is part of this procedure. Now we can tell that most easily by looking here at what's called the profile view. That's this one here, where it's like looking at it from a side, from the ground. So here where it says Bala, this line, the reason why Bala is up here, and it's basically showing that we cross over Bala twice. So, or Bala, whatever you want to call it. I'll say Bala. So we go to Bala and we cross over it. That's the first thing we do, right? They cleared us direct to Bala. And it says IAF, right? Initial approach fix. That's the first fix we fly over. So if we had come in from the south, we may have been given this one down here, Cody. Or Codhi, sorry. I'm so bad at reading these. So here, this one, Codhi, is another IAF coming in from the south, and it says no PT, which means no procedure turn. But because we're going to Bala, which is right here on the final approach course, you can see it's part of the course, like that we're coming straight into the runway on, and we're starting the procedure there. So because we're starting the procedure right there, part of that procedure is a procedure turn. So this line going down and then back in, this is showing that we're going to fly to Bala, fly away from the airport, down to 2,500 feet, then turn around and fly back towards Bala a second time. And then at 2,500 feet, be back at Bala. And then if we scroll up here, this angled line right here that's coming off to the south side, where it says 138 and 318, that arrow that goes off at a 45-degree angle, that represents our procedure turn. So those two things, this kind of weird doubling back on this profile view, and up here in the plan view, this arrow that reaches out here, that one-sided barbed arrow, that represents a procedure turn in the FAA charts. So that's the reason why over here in our flight plan, it's doing the procedure turn. So at Bala, it's anticipating it's turning outbound first. Then you can see on the south side, it's going to do a procedure turn. And that's what's important about the direction this is. This arrow is on the south side of the course, right? It's to the south, not to the north. And that means that that's the protected side, which means that's the side we do the procedure turn on. And we have to do it within 10 nautical miles of Bala. So right here it says remain within 10 nautical miles. So we just fly that turn, and we can fly it whenever we want as long as we're within 10 nautical miles. We need to make a turn to the south on a 138 heading, and then we fly that for 1 minute. Then we do a standard rate turn, and remember, and then we'll do a standard rate turn to the left. So we fly outbound. We take a right-hand turn. You can see right here. So if we're flying outbound and then we turn out, it's going to be on a 138. So that's a right turn for 1 minute. Then we do a 180-degree turn, and then we're flying back in on 318 heading until we intercept the localizer. So then we'll turn onto course and aim towards the runway, towards the field on a 273 heading. So all the headings are listed out here for us. So right now, 093, that should be what we're flying on, right? So right up here, 092, 095, we're pretty much, you know, it's compensating for wind. So we're flying outbound right now. Let me zoom this in. So you see we're flying outbound. That'll be 093. We're going to make a right-hand turn in just a moment. That'll be on a 138 heading. And here with the procedure turn, oh, it says 095 on the procedure turn. I'm not sure why it shows that. We should be on a 138 heading. Anyway, it's going to do this procedure turn for us and then come back inbound. And then we'll be on the way back to Bala. But we do need to go down to 2,500. Okay, we're already at 2,500 and we're doing the procedure turn. All right. So anyway, I hope all that makes sense. Is a procedure turn because of terrain? In this case, it doesn't look like it. Basically the procedure turn exists to get us back on course. Oh man, the ATC is so annoying. Sorry, let me turn down the ATC. This is really, let me turn that sound way down. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, it's super flat. So in this case, the procedure turn really ultimately is to get you back on course, flying to the runway. Some procedure turns, you lose altitude while you're doing them, but the main goal is just to get you lined up with the runway. And in our case, it's just because of the direction we were coming from. So over here, remember, we had a couple options. We had an initial approach fix to the south. The reason why it probably didn't give us this is because this turn is based on a DME arc, it looks like. So this is more for if we're coming from the southwest towards the airport. And then if we were coming, it just depends on ATC. Like, they're assigning us this approach based on the direction we're coming in from. So this is just one of the initial approach fixes. So just because they assigned us that approach fix as our initial approach fix, part of that procedure, that is your initial approach fix, is to fly the procedure turn. Now, this is like a very sim thing to always fly the procedure turn and always fly it by the book. If you're doing VAT sim and stuff like that, they're most likely just going to vector you every time, especially for an ILS. They're just going to vector you. They'll just tell you what headings to fly until you get lined up with the runway and you can intercept the localizer. They'll just say something like ILS, expect vectors for ILS 27 or whatever. And then they'll just give you a heading. They'll say November blah blah, or they'll say, you know, Cirrus such and such, Kilo India Papa, fly heading 050. You'll fly 050. Fly heading 030. Fly heading 030. And then they'll say, okay, you're cleared for the ILS. Fly heading 020 until established on the localizer. They'll just vector you, meaning just give you headings to fly until you get there. The chance of you, I don't fly VATSIM that much, but like the chance of you getting a procedure turn instead of vectors, I think is very low. They're most likely going to give you vectors. But because this is Microsoft Flight Sim ATC, it just gives you the procedure every time. I mean, which is great if you want to practice the actual procedure and do the procedure turn. And thankfully the NXi does the procedure turns for us, which is great. All right, so we're almost lined up. It's about to auto-tune the ILS for us. So the ILS is already tuned in up here, you can see. When we hit this procedure turn point here, it should automatically switch over to the localizer for us. And this is an untowered airport, so we have no tower. And what we're going to do is fly the missed approach procedure. So I'm going to go to map options. I'm going to turn that relative terrain off because that's distracting. How far out am I calling missed? So the missed approach procedure should be shown here. It's generally the runway threshold. And it's actually shown. Okay, it switched over to localizer already. Oh, somebody's here. Somebody caught up to us. Is this Schwartz again? What's up, man? So there is technically a missed approach point as well. I don't think that's in the NXi yet, but right here, you can see that that point is represented on this black line right here. where it's showing that dashed line is showing us climbing for the missed approach. So missed approach point is right there where the solid line turns to a dotted line. And generally that's at the minimums. So this is most likely at where it's calculating we will be distance-wise from the runway threshold at 200 AGL or 1027 MSL. Now the Garmin actually should show a missed approach point. It doesn't. Oh, it does show it. Here it is. It does show it. MAP right here means missed approach point. So this is going to be based on the minimums where we will be right before the runway threshold. Half of 1.5. Yeah, it looks like. Oh, is it? No, that's the 11 right here. I actually think the Jeppesen charts may show the missed approach distance from the threshold. I don't think the FAA charts show that. But we'll just base it off the minimums for now. So when we get down to 1030, our minimums 1030, then we'll just do the missed approach. So it switched to the localizer. This is new in the latest update. It'll auto switch to the localizer for us. So you can see up here that 108.3 is put in for the localizer frequency. So what I'm going to do is make sure our heading bug is synced. And I'm going to arm approach mode down here on the Cirrus, the buttons down here. So I hit approach, and now we see GS in white. So GS is right here in white. So that means that glide slope is ready to be captured by the autopilot. And you can see right here, the green diamond is above us. So we're expecting to get that green diamond in the center when we get to the final approach fix, which is at BALA right here. FAF means final approach fix, 1.9 miles from now. So you can see it's already starting to come down. So the green diamond's coming down. When it gets to the middle, the autopilot will capture it. If you want to fly this manually, you would look at both the HSI here. So you look for the broken line left or right to keep your lateral deviation. You keep the lateral lined up, the localizer lined up laterally, so you are in line with the runway. And then when you're on a descent like this coming in for a landing, basically the way to handle the diamond is just by increasing and decreasing your throttle. So if the diamond's above you, that means that you are too low. And the diamond's below you, it means you're too high. So basically with your throttle hand on your throttle lever, if the diamond is above you, push the throttle up the way the diamond is. If the diamond is below you, pull the throttle down. So basically pull the throttle the way the diamond is. Up if it's above you because you need to climb because you're too low. Down if it's below you because you need to descend faster because you're too high. All right, so now that we're on the glide slope, I'm going to set up for the missed approach procedure. So remember, missed approach, climb to 2,500 feet, go directly to GSH, and hold at GSH on a 090 inbound course or a 270 outbound course. So we're going to set up for that. We already have 2,500 feet dialed in right here. No, the heading bug didn't sync correctly. Whoa. That's weird. Yeah, that looks like a bug too. All right, I'm going to manually set it to 275. Actually, I'm going to manually set it to, yeah, I'm going to manually set it to where it's currently set to because it's compensating for wind. Yeah, I'm on the right tank. I'm on the right tank now. All right, so I'm too fast as well, so I'm going to slow down quite a bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to pretend like we're going missed. I'm going to set up over here direct to, and our direct to is to GSH. So I'm going to type in GSH and move this down to activate. Okay, so that's set up as well. All right, and we're slowed down, putting one notch of flaps down. We're on the glide slope, and we can take this down to 1,030 feet. So as soon as we get down to 1,030 feet, we're going to pretend like we don't have the runway in sight, and we're going to go miss. But I'm setting up for the landing right now. All right, so we have half flaps down. And what I'm going to need to do is press this suspend button down at the bottom here as well when we want it to go to our next waypoint. So I'll show that in a second. All right, we're at 1,200 feet. I just have one notch of flaps down. I'm just going to leave the one notch in. Okay, so we're almost at minimums. And if we pretend like we don't have a visual of the runway yet, we're about to hit our minimums. Autopilot is still on. So what I'm going to do is switch to heading mode in a minute. All right, so minimums. So I'm putting full throttle in. So we're in full throttle now, and I'm pitch trimming us down. So our instructions are to fly runway heading up to 2,500 feet. So what we would do right now is go here, announce missed approach. You can do this with ATC. You can tell them you're flying the published missed approach, but this is untowered, so we're not able to do that. All right, flaps are coming up as well. And now I'm going to turn on heading mode and re-engage the autopilot.
Cirrus November 21 Kilo India, Papa 1 miles east inbound ILS runway 27.
All right, so now we're going to fly the missed approach procedure. So I'm on runway heading right now. We're on heading mode, and we had synced it with runway heading, and we're climbing now. I should now turn on IAS mode instead of vertical speed mode. So I'm going to turn on IAS mode. You can do this manually if you want. I'm just going to use the autopilot because I'm a nerd and I'm lazy and I need to use the Garmin. So putting in flight level change, I'll do 120. All right, so we're flying runway heading up to 2,500 feet, which we're almost at already. Now what I'm going to do is go over here and activate our direct to GSH. We need to go to GSH and hold there. So I'm going to hit activate. I had that prepped. And there's GSH. And we're leveling off at 2,500. Now I'm going to switch to nav mode because we have GSH put in. And then I need to switch the CDI over to GPS. It's flashing VOR because I need to re-enable nav mode again. There we go. So we're not on the GPS anymore. We're not on the VOR anymore. We're now on GPS. So actually I should have switched over. I did that a little wrong. I should have switched to GPS mode here first and then turn on GPS mode. We wouldn't have got that VOR warning. All right, so now we're flying directly to GSH. So that's part of the missed approach procedure is go direct GSH and hold at GSH. So GSH is 7.8 miles away. And now what we can do is reopen our our flight plan menu here. Oh yeah, GSH is not listed, is it? Okay, so this is an issue. GSH is not listed because we're going direct to. So this is a little weird. Mr. Hugh Jasol, I'm sure I'm saying that correctly. Hugh Jasol, thanks for the 10 bucks, man. Starbucks on you. Thanks so much, dude. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Totally not necessary, but I very much appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so the issue right now is we're flying to GSH, but I can't program a hold in on GSH because it's a direct to. What I want to do is do manual holding. We can do that. Yeah, that's no problem. I do want to show it off in the NXi though, because it's a new feature. To do the manual hold, it's not a big deal. The hold doesn't have to be extremely accurately flown, but you see the hold is on the south side of the VOR, and we just need to fly these two headings. And our entry for the hold, since we're coming inbound, we're coming to the west here on like a 273 heading. We would make a left-hand turn to get to the outbound leg, and then we'd fly right-hand turns, and we would time them 1 minute. In this case, because we're flying across, we would actually start that first turn sooner than 1 minute. But yeah, what I want to program it in because it will visually show it to you. Yeah, manual holds direct to not working yet. Yeah, so I think my only choice here is to clear the entire flight plan. I'm going to delete the whole flight plan, and I'm just going to put one en route waypoint in. Right here, I'll put in GSH. Hit enter. And now what I can do is activate a leg to this waypoint. No, there is no leg, right? Yeah, so let me just activate direct to again. But now what I can do is hit menu and... Okay, it's turning me back on course. That's a little weird. Oh, I can't. Oh, yeah, there we go. Sorry. Hold it waypoint. Enter. Oh, it's not working. No. All right, we're already over it, so I'm already over it. Oh, is it teardrop for this one? Yeah. So I need to fly left on the heading soon. I'm going to slow down a little bit. We're kind of flying fast here. All right, we're going to switch back to heading mode. So yeah, we would make a left-hand turn about 30 degrees. 30 degrees to the left of our current heading. So 245 on the heading bug. We fly that 1 minute. I'm going to bring up my timer right here and get ready to start it. All right, so we just crossed over GSH, so I'm going to switch over to heading mode. And we're going to turn left 30 degrees. And I'm going to hit enter down here and start our timer. I actually don't know the rule. I know that each leg, the outbound and inbound leg and the hold, you fly for 1 minute each in a light aircraft like this. Here is the chart. So we're flying westbound to this hold point. The hold is on the south side of the VOR. So I'm flying from the VOR down to this bottom left corner where it says 270 with the arrow, and then we'll start our right-hand turn for 090. After 090, 1 minute, we turn standard rate right turn, 270, 090 over and over again, 1 minute per leg. Now I think that's the right entry. This is what I'm confused about personally is this considered a direct entry or not? And I'm confused about that because we're coming in from, because of where the racetrack is. I thought the racetrack was supposed to be on the close side. Anyway, I think this is a direct entry. No, it's not direct. Direct would be from the opposite direction. So this is parallel, I think. I think this is parallel because to get into this right-hand hold pattern, we need to take a left-hand turn at Gaussian, go fly southwest, and then make a right-hand turn. All right, let's check our timer. We're at 1:19 already. So what we would do now is make a standard right-hand turn all the way around to 090. Parallel would continue on the 270. Yeah, this one, I'm not sure about on this one. I'm probably flying this wrong then. I really wanted the NXi to cheat and tell me exactly how to fly this hold. Oh, teardrop. So I'm flying this wrong then. Now I'm switching around to 090. You can choose between parallel or offset because you're in the boundary. Isn't there a trick with like holding your hand up to a real heading indicator? Like holding your thumb and your pinky up or something to figure out where the lines cross through? I am good. So this was a parallel entry, right? To me, just visually looking at this, it seems like we would make a left-hand turn, cross over to the far side, then make a right-hand turn, go to 090, go for a minute, make a right-hand turn, 270, and so on. We would slice through that. Oh, it's called teardrop. Sorry, I see what you're saying. Flying it correctly, but it is called a teardrop based on the direction we're flying, not called the parallel. I always forget which one is the really strange one, but I think parallel is the really strange one. Teardrop visually looks normal. So anyway, we can see the runway in front of us now. So there's the airport up there, and we're on the 090. And I haven't been watching my timer, so that's been bad. I should be watching the timer and turning, doing this 180-degree turn every 1 minute. So yeah, we would just fly this 270 and 090. So we're now making that turn around for 270. And a standard rate turn, if you guys don't know this, it's very hard to see this on the G1000 actually. If you have like a traditional steam gauge turn coordinator, it's a lot easier to see. But this little pink magenta line here under the heading, see how it's reached out to the right? That is our half rate and standard rate turn indicator. So that line that it's hitting right there perfectly, the autopilot is doing that standard rate turn for us. So that's the standard rate turn right there is where that magenta line, that curved magenta line is pointing. So if you're trying to fly this manually, that's how you do a standard rate turn. It's just very hard to see. All right, and so now we're on the 270 again at 420. 420, LOL. And so we'll wait for 520. I haven't been timing this accurately, but this is what we would do to continue flying it. And what we could do now, this is untowered, so I have to learn I have to learn how to fly an untowered missed approach procedure. I'm not sure about that. I'm sure people in chat know all about those. I do not. But if you were flying at a towered airport with ATC, ATC would be responsible for giving you instructions on your next approach. You would basically restart an approach procedure, a whole new approach, and fly to a new fix. So what we could do to mimic that is just load a new approach procedure in. So say we want to load the ILS again. Oh, I'd have to dial in the airport again. So I need to dial in the airport because I cleared the whole flight plan out to make this work. It's too bad that I can't do the... I mean, hopefully we get this later, but I can't do the hold at waypoint. I wanted to try that out, but you can see it's not working because this waypoint is not part of the flight plan. Maybe, let me try something real quick. I'm just going to keep flying this heading. Hopefully we're clear of terrain. It's pretty flat. It's going to slow down. I'm going to try something really quickly. Let's put in the origin and the destination and then see if it lets us do the hold. So again, let's see. What was our origin airport? 470H. So let's put that in again. Keyboard entry mode. 470H. And then let's put in the destination, which is KGSH. KGSH. Whoops. That did not work. Keyboard entry. There we go. Click it again. Enter. Now let's see if I can do the holds now that it has kind of a leg to stand on. Let's see how, yeah, hopefully this works now. Hold at waypoint. Yes. All right, so inbound course is 090. Inbound to the field, right? Or is it 270? This one's weird because we're not inbound to the field. Inbound to the field would be, I think we keep this at 270 in this case. Let me see what it draws. This one's just a little weird. I think it's 270 outbound, isn't it? No, wait, it is inbound. It's 090 inbound because that's us heading to the station, to the VOR. So I'm going to do timed right outbound. Let's see what this looks like when we load it. Yep, there we go. Okay, that's correct. So this is exactly what we flew, or what, you know, exactly what I flew. You know, what I attempted to fly was, yeah, going from the airport out here, making that left turn, teardrop. Sorry, I called it parallel, but this is teardrop, shaped like a teardrop. Crossing over to the outbound leg, 270, but then making our inbound turn right away, 090, and then back outbound on 270 again, over and over again. So that's what we were just trying to, or I was trying to just manually fly that, well, using the autopilot. Cheating a bit, but... So that is correct. The reason we weren't able to program it is just because of direct-to not working with the procedure turn, or with the hold at waypoint command yet. So hopefully we get that later on. So that's just not working right now. All right, so if I wanted to now, I could fly back to that and fly that. I could turn off suspended mode, go back to nav mode, and then what this would do is fly us back. And you know, we have to use the heading dial to fly, or heading knob to fly back towards it because we're so far off course. Anyway, this is what would also be programmed into the flight plan as part of the procedure. So it's not in there yet. We do get a missed approach point before the runway threshold, but we do not. Yeah, I'm on the right tank. We're good on fuel. I wasn't switching it during the flight. I was very bad. It's so much easier flying the Cessnas with both fuel draw from both sides, both tanks at once. So anyway, hopefully in the future we get this too, where on the flight plan, when you load in a procedure, it would also load in the missed approach procedure. And then on this procedures menu, you would be able to activate the missed approach, which would really clean this up. The tablet I pulled up is Skypark. It's like a career mode add-on. So this is just where I get my routes from. It's kind of like On Air or NeoFly Lite. It's much simpler. It's not as hardcore of an app, but it has routes and stuff you can fly in and earn money and stuff like that. You can get it through Orbex. I use this one a lot because it's more casual, and then I'll use On Air when I'm taking it a little more seriously. I want to do fuel calculation and all that kind of stuff, but I like Skypark a lot. It's very easy to use. All right, so let's actually land at this airport. So I think we should load the ILS again, and then we'll just pick the other initial approach fix because it's to the south, just to fly us around to the south. It's got the minimums in. We're gonna go down and activate this, and then we'll do this ILS landing, this ILS approach. Now this turn we're making might not be legal. I'm not sure. It looks like it's about 90 degrees. I think the limit is 110 or something like that. There are some rules for a maximum turn that you can make during a procedure. This might actually be above that maximum. I thought the maximum was 110, but maybe it's less than that. All right, Falcon. Cheers, man. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you have nice VFR dreams. You can fly the outbound leg for 1 minute, turn 225 degrees to intercept the inbound leg, Air Force style. Not covered in the aim. Fly 225. So let's see, what was I doing? I was flying 273. And then, oh, you fly 225. So you're doing a 45-degree left-hand turn to intercept the inbound leg. Wait, let's see. If we're flying outbound. Oh, you mean, oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Instead of flying here, you would fly, you mean make a rotation, a turn of 225 degrees to the right, like a really wide turn. So you would just, you would fly to the outbound leg. I see what you're saying. You would just not stop turning. So you would come outbound from the flying west. You'd hit the VOR. You would turn left to go to the outbound leg. But as soon as you did that, you would just make a 225-degree right-hand turn. Kind of maybe I'm not understanding. Sorry. Sorry, I missed a bunch of chat going in here. Pitot heat off. Yeah, I left the pitot heat off just because it's 27 degrees out. So, but I'm guessing, is that standard procedure to always have pitot heat on takeoff and landing as well? That would make sense to always have pitot heat on, I guess, for takeoff and landing. But it's just so warm out, I just didn't turn it. Even at cruise at 10,000, we were at 17 degrees Celsius, I think. Just seemed really hot for pitot heat. Wicked, I was wondering that. Oh, about the standard rate turn. Yeah, the standard rate turn indicator, I've never flown in real life. I'm just a sim dork, but that standard rate turn indicator is so difficult to see on the G1000. I'm surprised it's so small. I wonder how easy it is to see in real life. We would probably be climbing to a higher altitude here. Because we don't need to descend to 2,500 until we get to the initial approach fix. Or actually, the final approach fix, we descend down to 2,500 for that. But here at Coddy, we're actually flying towards this terrain here too. And it doesn't have any numbers on it. So minimum sector, so we have our MSA. So 3,000 it looks like we would be at. 25 nautical miles from the VOR, our minimum sector altitude is 3,000. So I guess we could climb to 3,000 would be the safer thing to do. And then we'll descend to 2,500 again. We could do that with VNAV this time. I'm gonna go indicated airspeed mode and put our throttle back in here. All right, so we're just going around again here to do the ILS again. Not degrees, but for the hold, fly the outbound heading for 1 minute. Then turn 225 degrees. What is the, I'm confused by the 225 degrees. We wouldn't turn 180 degrees? Back to the 090 inbound course. Haven't flown as a PIC in years, but pitot heat is only as required. Okay. I think I haven't looked at the POH for the SR22 in a while. I'm not sure what the pitot heat recommendation is for that either. Is it usually like below? I think it's usually pretty forgiving, like pretty conservative, like below 7 degrees or 10 degrees Celsius or something like that. In clouds or fog. Yeah, we're pretty clear here though. I guess if I was mimicking, if I was pretending that we had really low clouds, yeah, we would have turned pitot heat on. That makes sense. Is VNAV working consistently? Found it inconsistent. Someone else mentioned that earlier, Jared. They said they were having issues with it as well. I'll try it right here for our, we have this little, this 500 feet of descending we're going to do over here. So I'll put it in for that. But somebody earlier was saying they were having issues with it not being consistent. So it seems like that might be a thing. All right, so 2500 on the VNAV. I can go ahead and turn that on now. There isn't any kind of restriction on when you can turn VNAV on. Just that you do need to set your selected altitude bug here lower than your current altitude. So if your altitude hold is at 3000, if you press the VNAV button, it will not arm VNAV yet. You have to first use the altitude knob to turn the selected altitude lower. That is something they changed in the latest version. You used to be able to turn on VNAV to get this V path enunciation and then turn the selected altitude down, but now you can't do that. It's the reverse. It's basically forcing you to move your selected altitude down before you enable VNAV, which makes sense if you think about it. It's forcing you to look at what your target altitude is or where you want to let VNAV descend to before you actually arm VNAV mode. And supposedly that's how the real NXi works. Fly to the nav aid. Fly out. Oh, I get you. Sorry, Richard. Yeah, I was super confused. That's very clear though. So what you're saying is, okay, let me bring this up. I wish I could draw on the screen. I should probably find something to let me draw on the screen. You're saying fly outbound. So we're flying, we called miss. We're flying on the dashed line, roughly 273 or say 275 degrees course outbound. Let's call it 270. You're saying fly over the fix, so fly over the VOR, and where it says 090, keep flying on that on 270. So we're flying outbound 270 for 1 minute, and then we make a right-hand turn all the way around to go back to intercept 090. So we're basically, but then what we would be getting is we would be doing the hold on the north side instead of the south side, right? In that case. But I totally get what you're saying. That makes sense. But technically, for FAA at least, aren't you required to fly the hold on the protected side? So the south side in this case. So we were not allowed to go north of that 090 course. Or that 270 course. Like we can't be north of the VOR flying the hold. As far as I know. But you did say it's military style, so... if you're top gunning it, I guess, you know, YOLO, you just do what you want. 225 is because you're making a 225 degree standard rate turn, off track, and then intercept. Yeah, I get it. That makes sense. That's awesome. I can totally visualize it. Schwartz, is that you? He's back. I haven't seen you disappear yet, so that's good. I don't know if I've disappeared for you, Schwartz, but I'm flying on autopilot and he's wait, is that the Cap 10? No, that's not the Cap 10. It's the extra, right? There's no autopilot in the extra, is there? I forget if there is. The extra, doesn't the extra have the G3X? I forget if there's an autopilot. I don't think there is. All right, so we're coming up on our, whoa. It's so funny that it does this. This is just a bug since the sim update. I have to go and reset the camera. There we go. No autopilot. Yeah, this is pure formation skill. That's way too accurate. Oh, he's flying on Xbox too. This is hand controller flying at its finest. Yeah, it helps that I'm on autopilot. Yeah. We're gonna do this ILS approach though. I'm gonna keep the autopilot on for now. We could do a grass strip or something for the next one. This flight turned out really long. I know I was talking for a while before we started. We've been going 2 hours and 15 minutes already. I love all the, I hope they add more liveries like every sim update. The new ones they added for the Xbox release are just awesome. It's nice to have a variety. All right, so we're making our left-hand turn now, and then we have our top of descent coming up here. So we just need to drop from 3,000 down to 2,500 feet. So at this top of descent, it's gonna drop that 500 feet for us right here. And then it's gonna make that left-hand turn to go to Bala again. Bala's our final approach fix, and we'll have our ILS there. So I'm actually, I'm not sure if the NXi will auto-tune to local. It's already tuned into the correct localizer frequency from before. That hasn't changed, but I'm curious if it'll auto-switch the nav source down here to localizer again. I'm guessing it won't, so we're gonna probably manually have to hit CDI down here to switch the localizer again. All right, now we're in VPath mode. So VPath is now active. So it's pitching us down for that descent. It's going to take us down to 2,500 feet. And that's our final approach fix. Altitude is 2,500 feet. So that's where we'll catch the glide slope there. It will auto switch. Yeah, I'm curious because this is the second time we've done this. Like we flew the missed approach, canceled the whole flight plan, reprogrammed the flight plan, reprogrammed the procedure. So I'm wondering if it's gonna work the second time. Yes. Yeah, that's right. When the active leg is the final approach fix, it switches. But I'm just curious if it's going to do it for the second time on the same flight. I don't know if it will. It'll be awesome if it does. If it doesn't, though, I'm prepared to just hit CDI. The first time it did work. It automatically switched for us the first time. Blue Angel level stuff. And I think our approach speed in the, I haven't flown the SR22 for a while. I think it's 85 approach, 75 roughly touchdown, between 75 and 85 for our touchdown speed. Or on short final, 75 to 85 knots. And let me turn on the wind. Before, when we checked the wind, it was like 22 knots. So it's 18 knots up here. We're at 2,500 feet, so the field is at about 800 feet. So we'll see how much the wind is down there. I'm not too concerned. I'm just gonna do it by ear. Yeah, this is some Blue Angel level flying. He's on an Xbox controller too. I would turn the nameplate on, but I don't want to pause it and mess up his formation. But that's Schwartz. He's chilling in chat. All right. Yep, it auto switched again. It did it. So now we're almost at final approach fix. So I'm going to turn on approach mode. All right. So VPath. It's weird that VPath is set there. We don't really need VPath anymore. Yeah, this is a bug too. See where it says TOD and BOD are both sitting right there, overlapped on Bala. I'm just gonna turn VNAV off to make sure it doesn't mess us up. But we have the glide slope approach mode right here, armed. So we're just waiting for that to come down. And we'll do the landing this time instead of the missed approach. It'll be really nice. I'm excited to try this again once the missed approach procedures are working. So we can activate missed approach and also do the hold without deleting the whole flight plan. That'll be really cool to do once that's in. Oh, you're on PC? Wait, I thought you were on Xbox for some reason. Somebody, the last time we had a few of you guys flying along, one of you guys was flying with an Xbox controller. Sorry, I guess it wasn't you. Anyway, it's still impressive. Looks like it swapped to localizer. Yeah, it did it the second time. It's awesome. I expected there to be a bug where it would only do it the first time around, but it did it again. Yeah, when approach arms, it supersedes VNAV. Yeah, the reason I turned it off, I have done it that way before, LA kids, but I haven't. What was weird is it said TOD BOD right there, so I was just worried there would be a bug maybe. I don't really want to deal with it if there's a bug, so just to be safe, I just turned off VNAV just to be safe. And our minimums are 10:30 for this, but we obviously see the runway, so as long as we're established, we'll land this time. On the localizer, holding at 2500, waiting for the glide slope to come down, 1.6 miles until our final approach fix. If we were going missed, we would climb back up to 2500 feet and go to the VOR, the GSH VOR, Goshen VOR. But we are not doing that because we just did that, and I want to land because, man, I'm tired. This hour flight turned into a 2.5 hour flight. Mist was working, but you had dropped your flight plan. No, I don't think Mist approach doesn't work yet. Activate Mist approach doesn't work yet, unfortunately. I think they'll implement it later where we'll have a missed approach, but make sure to report that bug. The direct to one. I'll ask about it. I assume they know about it. Their team is like on it. Every time I've tried to tell them about a bug, it's like it's either known or it turns out to be an actual real behavior of the NXi. Like with the autopilot nav mode arming criteria, when I went over that in the latest video, the first time I did, I was like, what's wrong with this? And they're like, nope, that's actually how it works in real life. I was like, oh, I wouldn't know. But every patch, I'm learning a lot about the NXi. All right, we're on our fullest tank. Mixture is now rich. I'm slowing down to put our half flaps down. I didn't look at the POH to know what we can put the first notch of flaps in at yet, but I'll just assume it's the full range. So we need to wait for 104, 105. Alrighty. And again, I have the relative topography thing on. I'm so stoked about it. I've mentioned it like 5 times, but it's a poor man's radio altimeter. When it turns red, we know we're at 500. Pretty awesome. All right, I'm gonna put the first notch down now. And we're gonna aim for 75 to 85 on our approach speed. Wind is 16 knots. Man, that's crazy. 16 knot headwind, a little bit from the left from the south side there. All right, PAPI lights look good. I don't know if they coincide with the ILS glide slope, but are the speeds written next to the flap lever? Oh yeah, I think you're right. They are. Yep, 119 and 104. Yes, they are. 119 for notch 1 then. Thank you. Yeah, good point. All right, we're almost at. We're at 1.8 miles out. It looks like. I can barely read that. We're at 500 AGL. At 1,030 feet, we're at minimums. That'll be 200 AGL. 87 knots. And we're gonna have a little crosswind from the left, but a huge headwind. 12 knots. Looks like it's about at like 240. All right, I'm going flaps 2, increasing our throttle a little bit. We're at minimums. Still on the ILS, I should turn it off. I should turn off autopilot. All right, 80 knots, autopilot's off. A little late on turning autopilot off. I should have slowed down a lot sooner. I actually think I normally put the second notch of flaps down like way too soon. Or way too early. Dude. Ah, I'm too close to you. Whoops, we just touched tips. Sorry. Dude, that was so close. You were right with me. That was crazy. Schwartz, dude, you're a stunt pilot. Actually, my landing lights are off. Whoops. All right, putting the flaps up. Landing lights are already off. I forgot about my landing lights. Rip. I'll turn them on now. Strobe off. Dude, you were so close to me, Schwartz. That was awesome. I could hear you off the left and I was like, do I look away or not? Do I look away or not? Do I mess up my landing by looking away? I know. That was great, man. Nicely done. You're crazy. All right, we're not gonna announce on CTAF. I'm just gonna go park. 2-ship landing. That was awesome. Yeah, no problem, George. Thanks for hanging out. All right, let's go park over here. Where are we parking? Oh, there's some fuel over here. We can park next to the fuel. Yeah, no problem, Steve. Glad you enjoyed it. I think I'll do another flight here. I'm not sure what I want to do yet, but I haven't flown for a while since I've been recovering, but recovering from the corona that I caught, unfortunately. Yeah, sorry I haven't been on for you guys who weren't here earlier. I was explaining, I went to a wedding. I'm fully vaxxed. I got Moderna back in April and May. Got both my shots, but me and my partner went to a wedding. I got COVID. She didn't get COVID, and no one else at the wedding got COVID. So, yeah, I picked it up through the vaccine, and so I've been recovering the last couple weeks. It wasn't too bad. I mostly just had chills, no fever, but that's why I've been kind of MIA the last few weeks. I've just been chilling and sleeping, and yeah, just taking it easy. But I've still been keeping up with what's going on with the NXi. So I'm hoping the next version comes out on Thursday. Because what they showed is the next, if these things are in the next version, hopefully it'll be on Thursday. It's OBS mode will work, visual approaches will be added to the procedures. So I'm really excited for that stuff. It's gonna be really cool. Whoa, it's so funny that the camera always does this. The chase camera or the showcase camera would have been worse if you weren't vaxxed. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm very thankful to have that and actually even more personal information. I have a sibling that did not get vaxxed and he had it really bad because he didn't get vaxxed. So yeah, same family, same genes. He had it horribly. He had a lot of problems with his oxygen and stuff. So thankfully he's okay now, but you know, I'm glad I got the vax because my results were much different. I just laid on the couch for a bit and then I'm good to go. Maybe dig out my commercial pilot books. Nice. I should steal my partner's books. She has, you know, like the FAR AIM and a bunch of like ATC books and all sorts of stuff like that. Over in the living room, I could just go grab those. She's tried to give them to me. I started reading one of them once, but I just do a lot of Googling and reading Garmin manuals because that's what I'm into. Yeah, no problem. No problem, John. Thanks for hanging out. Made me dig out. Oh yeah, I read that. Sorry. Looking forward to the next NXi stream. Yeah, I might do one. I might do one Thursday, but at least I'm trying to do it on Sunday. No, I didn't get it from my brother. He's actually on the East Coast and I'm on the West Coast. But yeah, we went to a wedding. I posted a photo on YouTube of one of the cockpits of one of the flights. But yeah, it's the first time I went on a plane since January 2020, and I have the Moderna vax, and I just caught it. We went to a wedding in Idaho at Coeur d'Alene in Idaho, and everyone there except for the staff was unmasked. But it's kind of crazy that my partner didn't get it. She was fine. She tested negative. I had symptoms, I tested positive. And then 2 days ago, I got another test and I got the results yesterday. So I tested negative now, so that's good. And supposedly the tests are very, very accurate. They're very sensitive. So even though you're not contagious after about 10 days, it's been like 16 for me now, or 17. It's good to, it's just nice peace of mind to know that it's not even being detected by the test anymore. So I know that it's, you know, very, very little or totally out of my system at this point. I just have one of those like post-cold coughs still, you know, that kind of post-cold feeling. But other than that, I feel pretty good. Thanks, Ivan. Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, I can, do I want to do more? Maybe I should just call it here. That was kind of a long flight, and yeah, I've been talking a lot, and I should just take it easy. But 2.5 hours is good enough, I think. Schwartz, thanks for flying along again, dude. You're insane. This guy, the Blue Angel and the Extra. Thanks for flying along, man. The rudder wave. I love that that actually shows up. That wave was so funny, dude. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Yeah, Jared, thanks for hanging out, man. Appreciate it. Q just sold. Thanks again for the 10 bucks, man. I'll definitely grab Starbucks before work tomorrow, so I totally appreciate that. Have a good day yourself. Maybe next stream we'll make a formation flight training with the Extra. If you want to lead it, I'm totally down. You could teach us all. All right, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out. Have a great rest of your night or day, whatever you got. It's about 3 here in LA, so I'm gonna chill out and get some lunch and fly a little bit more maybe tonight. But have a great time. Thanks for hanging out. Hope the ILS stuff was helpful, and thanks for the tips on the hold and stuff too. That was really useful. I feel like I learn as much as you guys do on these streams. Like, I'm reviewing stuff I've said 1,000 times, and I'm learning stuff from you guys every time, so I really appreciate it. It makes my future videos better, makes me double check and go back and revisit things and relearn things. So I totally appreciate you guys that are more experienced than I am, which is probably most of you. So thanks so much. I'll see you guys at least probably next Sunday. I do have to pick up my girlfriend from the airport that day. She went to visit her family, so I'm gonna go pick her up from the airport then, but I should be able to do a stream for a few hours, so I'll at least see you on next Sunday. And if we have an update to the NXi on Thursday, you can expect a new video out for that update, assuming that'll be 060 with OBS and stuff like that. So I think I'm losing my voice, but thanks again, guys. Take it easy. Have a good day. Have a good night, and have fun flying. See you next time.